Let me make it official for our people online. My name is Adeyemi Adeshino Afolabi Adekemi Okonomo Akonyade Entoba Fomowomo Alutiepa, aka Spirit Oko, aka Spirit Man, aka Spirit, aka Opportunia. You know. All right, I'm not going to be doing this alone, though. I have senior colleagues in the house. No man. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, can you help me welcome Davidson? Put your hands together for him. No man. Just Dave. I just dropped the mic, Dave. Dave.
Nothing like check.
You can use my. I respect that.
About which kind of talk me there? Teach one be senior colleague. I know they hear bros. Only good they fear go free allow me stand with. When I clap for my jam, don't mind them. That's what they do when they don't want to give you your balance. Big names so that when you go say, sir, where's my? I think I called you senior colleague. Is that not enough for you? One more time, please, with Spirit Coco. Such an honor to be standing with. Okay. I tell you, I set up probably. So my name is Davidson. For those of you just joining us today, I've seen new faces. Many of these guys were here with us yesterday. It was fun. It was, very interesting. And we did something, when we started, we did a little introduction. And PK, I don't know if we have to do it again today, just for some of us that were here yesterday. Michael, I see you. It's nice to see you again. We're together last weekend in the States, right?
Yeah.
Lion. Anambra State. All back precisely.
A lot of money.
How much you pick, man?
I lost count after
you lost count. Okay. Not like I went there to pick money on, but okay. I just went to represent my family, actually. Good money, yes, to nobody pick. But Igbo people, very interesting people. Igbo people, Oba people actually shut down the whole internet that whole week. Igbo Kweno, anybody here? Hey! PK. No, let me talk with you. I won't talk now. They affect my balance. And then, Oba. Strong people, though. This is when they were spraying money, 200. Chioma Jesus was performing. I watched her performance. They spray her to 200 naira. She say, Chioma, Chioma. When Kana heard the spray her 500 naira note, she changed the song to Chioma. And she see 1,000 naira note for Kubana hand. Chioma Jesus begins singing Olamide song. Eni omo umobe, umu chineke, ube. Shakiti boboe, Jehovah Shakiti. I said, Shaki what? My own Jehovah. What's wrong with you, man? Because of how much? But it's interesting that it was at that event that I realized that no matter how proud you think some people can be, when they get to certain places, they go humble themselves. Yeah, I know, Naira Marley now. When, for Lagos, they always they brag. Hey, go that place, go they try. I know this is an artist who he just removed his shirt and flung it into the crowd, and he landed at the Inspector General of Police's wife's face. And as she removed it, half of her makeup like this clean, come on. When Naira Marley saw it, he knew he was in trouble. Immediately, Naira Marley, he knelt down. The next song that came out from his mouth, I have made you too small in my... The guy humble straight because, hey, how can you even go about it? But it's nice, ladies and gentlemen. I will just, we're still expecting a few of our speakers. I'm sure they're going to pick one of them up. So we'll just pass the mic around just so we can do a quick introduction. And afterwards, we're going to be welcoming our first speaker. So how do we start? Okay, let's take our gentleman here. Can we put our hands together for... so quickly, You just tell us your name, what you do for a living, probably one special thing about you, just so that we can know, each other in the house. Right? Can we do that? Can we do that for 5 minutes? All right, boss. We just have to start with you. You have done it before, and you can do it again.
Hello everyone. My name is Mr. Pin. I'm an entertainer and an entrepreneur. Everything about me is special. I'm good to know. My name is Tega Leonard. I'm an actor. Everything about me is special.
It's a thing, so you don't find trouble. So how special?
All right, so my name is Michael. So I'm a website developer, front-end. And yes, what's about me? I'm specialist to power 2.
Wow.
All right, good morning. My name is Samson. I'm a writer, and I'm special. I'm unique.
Something is special.
Everybody possesses.
Hello, my name is Ajay Samson. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. Yes, and I'm also special.
Wait, now different things.
So I summarize them.
No, leave summarize. You are a multi-discipline. It means like you flog at his way. I mean, it's not what it means. You are a anyway. Yeah, versatile. One man did this at an event. What do you do for a living? I'm into environmental. Cool. The line, Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the convener of the story conference. Can we put our
My name is Kilichuku Angomidi. Everything about me is especially special.
Everything about me.
Yeah. Are there any passes?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Olayemi Anonibe. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
Specialist.
These are our specialists. So
These are our specializations.
Specialist.
Yeah, man.
Okay, no worries.
This one.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
My name
My name is Amarashuku. Everything about me is special. Everything about me is special.
Okay. What do you do for a living?
Everything about it is special. Just you like daddy.
About
My brother, go better school. See children.
Okay, my name is Antonia Adeshino. I'm a skincare therapist, beautician, and fashion stylist. Thank you.
Everything.
what's special about it?
Everything about you is special.
Good morning. My name is
Me, I'm a specialist.
Did I say more? I'm one of a word because I'm very kind in complexion. By the way, just in case my own name is Davidson actually. I'm a comedian, MC, stand-up, content. I just do all these things around entertainment. I hustle basically. I'm a family man, yes. I have a father, mother, brothers and sisters. And I'm standing, I'm a man, so what else again? I'm going somewhere in life. The special thing about me is that the truth is that I don't even know, actually. Let me not lie. The special thing to me is that I'm specially made, just the way it is in the Bible. But after that one, I just know. No, for some people looking at us like, no, we actually speak normal language. If you hear this normal, because we speak special, you get. So, have you met people that, they discuss and they don't necessarily have to finish a sentence, but you understand what they're trying to say? Do you understand? So for everything I say, once I do like this, just say normal. You will see that we'll have a good story. Ready? Yeah. When they come, I always stay for normal. Man, my guy, I don't feel like make I even go. Normal. I just enter. I come, eating even. Normal. I come, fuel no even make I go. Normal. As I go, I know the guy say I say which kind of talk down. On a good and as well that they make we even just now we just police come pack. Which one be pack? Which one be? I'm not making sense. Oh my God! Oh really? Awesome story. Awesome. So I remember my last trip to Abuja the other time. Very funny experience, and there was this very terrible turbulence. So it was coming back to Lagos. Very terrible turbulence. So you know how people like to panic during those things. So one man was sending text. He was sending to one nation. I don't know. His ATM, all his card details, his house address, landed properties. He was sending all the details. So God can help us, the plane no come crash. We can land. As we land, the guy just received debit alert. Pum, 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 pum. The guy said, what's going on here? So now when he checked the text message, he can realize that he actually sent those details to a wrong number. Here you get. As he called the number, hello, the person pick up, hello, guy, that. He said, no, I'm not there. The plane landed. He said, okay, no need. From there, they come out. Because if you come back to this house, you'll still die. So the guy is trying to nine the airports now. They do airport taxi. But it's nice to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, the very beautiful Tolu Thompson is in the house. Can we give her a round of applause? So we want to introduce herself. She will come up in a little and she will be anchoring one of the sessions of the event. Are we ready? So ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together for Tolu as she comes through to coordinating this item?
Good morning, everybody. Are you saying morning or the afternoon? I'm not very sure. It's so good to see all the beautiful faces here, ladies. And why? It seems like we're in a CAC church. Like the guys are here, the ladies are here. What's going on?
Normal.
Are you serious?
Normal.
Anyways, I'm sure David has made us introduce ourselves. I can see a couple of familiar faces from the Elevation Church, which is pretty interesting. Hi, do you know my face? Hi. You don't know my face?
You have to introduce yourself.
Okay, so in case you did not know, my name is Toluwanini Thompson. You can call me Tolu. I'm a TV presenter, event moderator, event host, and that's what I'm doing right now. So pretty much what it is. Actually, we're supposed to have a speaker coming now to talk to us about storytelling and brand advertising, but they're not here at the moment. But David too will come again to just cheer us up and just put smiles on our faces again. But just so you know my face, I'm Tolu. I'm going to be anchoring today. Thank you. Applause for yourselves too.
Anyway, that's Tolu. Tolu is a TV presenter and very amazing personality. So one more time, can we give her a round of applause? So,
Hi, you should clap for me now.
don't just like to ask this question a lot. You know, during creation, when God was creating heaven and earth, and just imagine that God created me not as a human being, but I came to this earth in form of a car. A car. Let's start with. You know, what car do you think I'd have come as? Look at me very well. I want to know the kind of people that we have here. If you event, and you are not clapping for her. So the events are right? All in support, say I.
I.
Just you. You are meeting me for this place. Okay, imagine I didn't come as a car, but I came as a phone. What phone do you think I'd have come as? So nobody has iPhone in this place. Okay, let's leave both. Imagine I came as a place in Nigeria. Where would I have come as? Somebody say Mushi. Yeah, I'm not surprised, because that's where you shout Owa. You know. Okay, imagine I didn't come as this, I came as one of the presidents in the world, you know, any of the presidents.
He didn't hear you.
You said what?
Now I know the president.
Okay, let's just move on to other. This is not working at all. This is not working at all. Growing up for me, I listened to some of the best songs. You know, then, you know, when you were down, you could, you know, just turn your radio on, listen to music, and before you know, you will get your life back. You get, you know, your mood. Get into a good mood. You know, those days it was Westlife for me. They had songs for every mood. For example, that time if you are down, you know, just on radio, you just be happy again. I don't know if you remember this song. If you know it, just sing along with me. I lay my love on you, that's all I want to do. And tell you everything I feel brand new. You open up my heart. Hey, I don't walk like true. Oh yeah. Beautiful song that before you know you are singing along. And there's one song that is, you know, I think they actually dedicated that song to breakups. Because anytime they break your heart, you must play that song. Because I can't believe that I told this love. You must sing with passion. Oh. How was I? You sing out, you know. Sing it with so much passion. But these days you can't even turn on the radio when you are down. I was down the other day, you know. I had a very serious accident last week, and I just felt like, let me just turn to music to help myself. And then one I heard was, "Irolele man fine." I'm like, what is that? This is nice, but I'm still not fine. What are you? Just a lot of rubbish in the news these days. And Nigeria, I've always said it, that English language is probably not, you know, our major, what we should hold seriously in this country. You can't speak it, just speak what you can. It's a matter of fact, I saw two ladies arguing the other time about this big banners and Morris burial, and one was screaming and said, "Hey, that burial was really awesome. If you actually, it was awesome." And the second one came from nowhere. Said, "You know, attend our own burial, uncle. Our burial was awesomer than that one." I'm like, we want to be awesomer again. Are we in summer lessons? Oh, we are not in summer lessons. We want to be awesomer. But it's just interesting, and I like it more when ladies do it. I mean, especially when my mom had been disturbing me for a while. David, when are you going to bring a woman home? Come on, you're not getting young, all those blah, blah, blah. So immediately I got into this relationship. I said she must see my mom. My mom didn't even wait to know her. So yeah, go and cook for me. What would you like? My mom said jollof rice. I didn't know that she, you know, doesn't know how to cook. And then she went to buy all those key points. You know those books, how to make so and so soup, those small pamphlets that, you know, has recipes for every food you want. So she bought it and she was cooking. She wanted to cook jollof rice. So as she opened page 5, Page 5 says how to cook jollof rice. Step 1, pour your vegetable oil on the fire. She pour vegetable oil. Stage 2 says add onions. She added it. Stage 3, add your pepper and other this thing. She added it. As she was going back for stage 4, breeze come blow the book. From page 5, breeze come blow and go page 11. And page 11 says how to cook ogbono soup. Stage 4 of page 11 says now add ogbono anachi. That's how this girl carry ogbono put for jollof rice. Ladies and gentlemen, if you see the way jollof rice they grow. She's in mountain of fire shouting God when. God do what?
So you marry her.
Can you marry Russell?
It's a very good question. You marry
Just marry will put you in trouble. All my in-laws all my parents just a purge, but and for me it was a complete disaster. Even when she apologized and said, I said, no, it's not your fault. Don't worry about it. Maybe, let's just be the way we are. We don't necessarily have to do anything right. And very interesting experience. Another thing happened when I left Lagos the other time. I was traveling to Abeokuta via road, and I saw this very blind man. He wrote that skinny on their distance. He said, my brother, help. I am blind, deaf and dumb. He now wrote it down here, very blind. So as I was passing, he called me and said, my brother, help me now. I said, I'm blind. I'm even deaf and dumb. You don't get human sympathy. I said, but you are talking to me now. He said, my brother, no verse. Now lay blind and blind. I don't even see you. Out of magnanimity, I just gave him 500 naira and said, I said, my brother, now you give me this 500. I said, how did you know? He said, I shine money now. So he prayed for me and I left. In the evening, I went to watch a football match around that area, the viewing center. As I entered there like this, I saw this same blind man I saw in the morning. He was watching the same football with us. Sit down in front of television, take the match. So I was curious. I went to meet him. I said, my brother, you look familiar. He said, I know. I said, I saw you this morning. You told me you were blind. I even gave you 500 naira. He looked at me and said, and so what? Person will go walk, not they close. Now walk I did that time. Now I don't close. Let me enjoy the match. I'll continue walk tomorrow morning. That's when I realized that no. I don't forget. This one I keep on a hand outside.
No man.
No. It's really not easy. That's how I find when I smoke. No, for real, I'm very fine.
Yeah. It's still fine.
Stop it. You could have made me blush now.
Don't blush.
I don't like it at all. Say it again. I said I don't like it.
You have to.
You get feelings for me? Why you repeat something? Please. You don't do now. I met one of them. Oh, I love your videos. I said thank you. Like I love your videos. I said thank you. Like I love your videos. They follow this one. They don't like the videos. Man, what kind of thing is that one? I don't even love my videos. Just like them. That's all I ask for. But we see a lot of all these dramas again. And we have. I don't know why I have this sentimental attachment to Igbo people. I'm almost Igbo. I'm actually Delta, but very close. Just a stone throw. Just a stone throw. And Igbo people are so far the most industrious people in Nigeria. No jokes. Are so far the most industrious. No, not be compliment. Not be compliment to PK.
Yeah?
Not be compliment. Because It's only an Igbo man that can pirate a pirated product.
Wisdom.
They'll give you back. Igbo people understand that Nigerians don't like made in Nigeria.
I'll wait for you.
They know that the Nigerians don't like made in Nigeria products. So they wait for Americans or Igbo people to produce, then we now make it. Igbo people, Timberland came out those days. Igbo people did their own Thunderland. Versace came out and was trending anyhow. Igbo people were waiting. When they did their own, they called their own Gucci, they trend, everybody they smile. Yes? Igbo people just laugh. 2 weeks later, they did their own Madia Gucci. The one that scattered my head was when they did the LG. I bought an LG product, fine. So I on the TV like this. I was seeing 4 square instead of the round LG. When I on a normal LG logo is supposed to be life is good. When I on this one, I saw local government. The election. What are we doing? But ladies and gentlemen, we must move on. So I want to welcome back to Luke Talks on stage, just so we can proceed with the program. Can I clap for me if I try now?
Thank you so much, Davidson. So right about now, we are going to get into the program proper, and we're going to be having interesting conversation with Bada Akintunde Johnson, and he's going to be talking to us about storytelling and brand advertising. Please a round of applause for him. But before it comes up, there'll be a short video that's going to be shown right here through the projector, and yeah, we'll welcome him officially. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready as the video comes up for Bada Akintunde Johnson.
Bada Akintunde Johnson is a country manager for Viacom. Akintunde Johnson is a country manager for Viacom CBS Networks Africa, where he oversees entertainment brands such as MTV Days, Nickelodeon, BET, and Comedy Central in Nigeria. For close to 2 decades now, he has worked in the marketing, communications, and media spaces. Before his current role, he worked in advertising as the creative director of Globacom at SO&U, creating impactful and award-winning campaigns for the telecommunications company. His career also features roles at TBWA Concepts and Center Spread FCB. He was also the creative manager at HITV, Nigeria's biggest indigenous pay TV platform for some time, where he led the in-house post-production and creative agency teams. He started his career as a presenter and producer with Galaxy Television Lagos, and continues to be a popular and respected sports media personality, working extensively as a soccer pundit, regularly featured on the live broadcast of football competitions such as the UEFA Champions League, the English Premier League, La Liga, the Bundesliga, the FIFA World Cup, and some of the most watched sports shows. Bada co-owns a talent management company and record label, Peaceville Entertainment, which manages superstar musicians and producers such as Vector the Viper, Deja, Nosa, Babyface, London, Cleotelma, and protect. He is a graduate of Communication and Language Arts from the University of Ibadan and holds a postgraduate diploma in Marketing Communications from the Chartered Institute of Marketing in London. He is currently studying for an MBA at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership in Germany. Please welcome Father Akintinde Johnson.
Hello, everyone. Sorry. I hope there's nobody from Delta here, because they say we should fear the Delta variant. So. Okay. I'll hope that it doesn't come so close. On a more serious note, good morning, everyone. Almost afternoon. My name is Bada Akintinde Johnson. Bada is my surname, but I prefer to be called Bada because it's just easy for everyone to pronounce, regardless of where you're from in the world. So I'm Bada, and it's a pleasure to meet you guys. So I've been asked to speak on storytelling, but I think it's instructive that the presentation started with my story. You know, just a peek into my journey so far. I started out, as you heard, at Galaxy Television so many years ago as a presenter and a producer. That journey lasted about 11 months. And then I joined creative advertising as a copywriter, writing radio commercials, TV commercials, producing them. And then I went back into media at High TV, was there for 3 years, and then went back into creative advertising and had my most enjoyable period between 2013 and 2017, accounting for about 500 plus TV commercials for Globacom. And since then I've been working at Viacom CBS, growing one of the world's biggest media companies in Nigeria. Some of our channels, I'm sure you are very familiar with on MTV, on DSTV, MTV Base, MTV, BET, Nickelodeon, TLC, CBS Reality, the list is long, including Paramount Pictures, the movie company. And now with extensions into the video on demand and streaming spaces. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. So I don't know if that qualifies me to speak on storytelling. I hope it does. I hope it does. To be honest, virtually every one of us can say a thing or two about storytelling because by nature we're storytellers. Our society has always placed stories very, very highly and has always utilized stories for human development and development of social interaction. A lot of culture is passed down through stories. If you're a Yoruba person like me, you would have grown up on Ijapa and Yoruba stories. Those things were used to teach us acceptable conduct. So in every Ijapa and Yoruba story, good will ultimately prevail over evil. That was the way society taught us that it was better to be a good person over being a bad person. Some of us here actually believed until recently, well, speaking for myself, that there was a time in history when the Nigerian football team played against India and they beat us 100-0, 101. Exactly, yeah. And there was supposed to be 100. Exactly, either 99 or 100. There are different versions of the story. That the reason the score was so high was because they used juju, and each time they kick the ball towards our goal, it will turn into either a lion or fire, depending on the version you heard. And that the only goal Nigeria scored was scored by a certain Thunder Balogun. Thunder Balogun was an actual footballer who represented Nigeria. But I'm sure even in death, he probably will be smiling at the way people creatively included him in a story that he never partook in. They said, on the one occasion that Nigeria managed to get a chance, the ball turned to fire or turned to a lion, and Thunder Balogun just hit it regardless. And the ball ended up in the back of the net for Nigeria. It didn't happen. But stories have always been part of us, and they are always going to be part of us. So it makes sense to understand how to utilize storytelling effectively for our purposes. Whether you're a professional storyteller, content creator, producer, whatever it is, or you're making commercials or making long forms or you're doing reality shows, whatever sort of content that you're creating, storytelling is a key component, and it's just important that we discuss like this. If I'm being honest, I didn't prepare this particular presentation for this event. It's a presentation I've used a couple of times because people ask me to speak a lot. And I haven't been stoned or booed at any of those events, so it must mean that the slides make sense. So I hope they also make sense to you. All right, so please, let's just sort of go through as quickly as possible. And it's not a lecture. I always like to say I hate lecture, even though I also play, some lecturing or do some lecturing, I do some work with the US Consulate in Nigeria, teaching women in an academy called Academy for Women Entrepreneurs. Recently I was in Abuja speaking at Bayes University and University of Abuja to undergrads on digital literacy. So I teach, in that aspect. But when I have engagements like this, it's not a lecture. Free to stop me. And I sense that there are practitioners in the room who are like professional storytellers. But the slides are put together in a way that whether you are an aspiring storyteller or you are an amateur storyteller who just gathers kids, social gatherings or whatever, this will be relevant, So it's the person with the slides or controlling the slides somewhere around. If I can see that. Okay, cool. So let's have the slides on or up. Okay. I may have to change position because I can't see. So if you don't mind, let me just stand. So we already ran through this. I already spoke about this one. So let's just skip the slides. So the only thing here that I didn't mention was that I have a little, mention in the Guinness Book of Records, which is for some work that I did when I was creative director for Guinness. We ran a campaign called Fly with the Eagles in 2013 ahead of the Nations Cup, Africa Cup of Nations in South Africa, which Nigeria won. And part of that campaign included creating the world's largest football jersey. So we took it to different locations in Nigeria, we got it signed by the fans, and then we did a miniature version of it and presented it to the team. Why was that significant? So apart from finding a place or getting a place in the Guinness World Record or Book of Records, it was significant because for those of you who are football fans here, Nigeria pretty much changed the national team, the players, in the lead up to that competition. A lot of the old guys were let go. People like Yonazi, Sunday Mba, Obuabona, this Chelsea guy, Omeru, people like that pretty much came into the national team on the eve of the Africa Cup of Nations. So Nigerians didn't believe that they had a chance, especially because the previous one, we didn't even qualify. So Guinness, the brand that I worked for at the time, as sponsor of the team, wanted to do something that will galvanize the support base and also inspire the team to actually believe that they could do it. Did I believe that we could win it? No, I didn't. But did I have a job to do? Yes. And did I do the job? Yes. And did the team believe? Yes. Did the campaign play a part in them believing? Maybe, maybe not. I would never know. But they went to the competition and won. And I don't think that anyone has broken that record of creating what is the world's largest football jersey, which is the size of a football pitch. The actual jersey laid out is the size of an entire football pitch. Okay, so can I have the slides back, please? Please just keep this entire story okay. So I just wanted to engage first. Is there anyone here who works in production? Is there anyone here who currently works in production? Sir, what do you do?
Well, I make music.
You make music. Oh, okay. All right. So you make music content. Why do you make?
Because it's something that I believe I could use to pass a message to a lot of people. It's one of my mediums of passing a message.
Why do you feel that need for expression? Why is it important for people to hear your message?
Why is it important for people to hear my message? Depends on the angle you're asking the question from.
Okay, so why did you think that? There's already too much music out there.
Okay, sure.
Why should you add your own to it?
There's never too much.
Exactly. So you feel like you have a unique message,
Yes.
something that is different from what everyone else has said or put out there. Fantastic. Sorry, madam.
Yeah, I'm a TV presenter.
Okay.
Yeah.
TV presenter. So the responses I expect is outside of obviously I must have a job or I need to earn a living. Exactly. So why are you a storyteller from a presentation standpoint?
Because I feel people need to be more informed about certain issues. There are certain issues out there that people have misconceptions about, and in my own area of storytelling, I can actually change the narrative.
Use your voice.
Yeah.
You need to. Okay, fantastic. Who else works in production here? Anyone else? Or who aspires to work in production or work in the content space, whether as an artist or as someone who works on the back end, helping these people put stuff together, whether in film or in music or even in sport. There's a lot of content being produced daily on social media. And some of you don't even know that you're creating content. You post pictures. People who follow you consume still pictures, still photography is content. Some people's Instagram pages are so well curated, you think they hired a company to do it. You're a content creator. The reason people follow you solely is because of the content you put up. There's nothing else, except you do giveaways. So whether you like to admit it or not, you're a storyteller, you're telling stories. It could be stories of a good life. You post lifestyle stuff. So when you're traveling to exotic locations, you post pictures, you're telling a story. You want to know how people connect to that story? Human beings by nature are aspirational. So if you post pictures of, maybe even this event, let's say you post a picture from this event, someone out there who's probably sitting or sleeping will think, man, see human beings that are doing something with their own lives. They are learning. What am I doing sleeping on my bed? See how stories work? Whether you consciously meant to pass that message to someone, you actually did. And the connected world that we live in has automatically made each and every one of us a storyteller, whether you admit it or not. It's just that there are certain persons who are now using that to make money. An understanding of that is helping. And the interesting thing is, since COVID, Nigeria has actually had more regular people from content. It happened all over the biggest, cases. And I'm trying to do a case study around it. Within the advertising that has happened since COVID is that COVID negative economic consequences for brands. What that means is that brands no longer have 100 million to go and give one Davido or Biscuit as brand ambassador. So now they're using more what you call micro influencers, regular people who maybe post food content, or post baby or family content, or post sports content, people who just do specific stuff, who may not have 100 million followers. They may just have like 5,000 or 10,000. But brands would rather go with 10 of those who can influence 10,000 than go with a Davido who has 13 million, who every time he posts regular stuff, he gets a lot of engagement, but anytime he posts something that is perceived sponsored, people don't really engage. So since then, there's a lot of guys. There's a guy called Oliekun on Instagram. Some of you may know him. There's a Demtemison, all of those guys. They are now bagging real endorsement. Like Guinness has Oliekun and a few other people that some 3 years ago, regular people would have been like, who are these ones? But now, the fact that they're using storytelling has qualified them for big endorsement deals with brands. So you might want to be more intentional about why you are a storyteller, because you are. Next slide, please. Okay, so my next question is, what do you consider a great story? So let me lay a premise. My first question might oversimplify storytelling, because I said anyone and everyone is a storyteller, right? But even within that space, there is what you call story, what you call a great story. So if I told you now that President Buhari woke up this morning, and that's my story. Is it a story? Yes. Is it a great story? So what if he woke up? I woke up. Every human wakes up. That's not a great story. But if I told you that President Buhari normally wakes up, according to insiders, at 7 o'clock. But at 7 o'clock this morning, all attempts to wake him proved abortive. You suddenly become a bit interested. Yeah. Like, okay, did he pass out? Did he sleep late? Did he take drugs? Your mind will now start asking more questions. You will now become more interested. Like, okay, is he dead? You get what I mean? Yeah. So, we will get into the nitty-gritty of what makes a great story. But to you, I'm just going to ask two persons to tell me or tell us what they consider as a great story. What would make you, if you go on Netflix, for instance, you see a preponderance of movie and series options. What determines your choices? Why would you choose one over the other? I just want us to kind of like lay down the foundation, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it. Who wants to go? What makes a great story to you?
Okay, for me, the relatability of the story, and the story that is relatable and the story that emotionally connects.
Fantastic.
So those two for me.
Fantastic. So a story that is familiar, something that you can relate to. So if someone brought something to do with maybe Eskimos or something from outer space about aliens and stuff, it might really not interest you because you can't relate, except you have a personal interest in things like that. But if someone were to situate or set the story around about things that you grew up with, maybe let's say you grew up in the village now, but you've been living in the city since, someone now sets a story that is familiar, that looks like something that, it gets you. It's a proven fact that humans like to see themselves in stories. That's why even with Ijapa and Yonibo stories, they had to animate those things. For us, those things had to become like us. They could speak, they could fight, they could get angry, you understand? So that's the familiarity component in it. Because if it's not familiar, you are not likely to relate. And then he also said something quite critical. It must be emotive. If it's able to stir some emotion, then that's a good story. Can we have one more person? What makes a good story? or a great story?
What is a plus? For me, the outcome has to be something I cannot predict. Must.
So
if I can
unpredictability.
predict it, then it's not a good story.
Fantastic. Great point. So, if you are stating the obvious, the storyline is overflowed. I've heard it before, and we get that feeling with a lot of films. The other day I was watching Red Something Sky on Netflix. Yeah. And when I was scrolling through, I saw that it was a plane hijack story. And I almost didn't watch it because I felt I can't even count how many plane hijack stories I have watched in this my life. But then I realized that there was a vampire dimension to it. So I said, okay, wait a minute, let's see. And I didn't regret it. It was a bit too gory for me because I watched it at night and I hate horror films. So if I knew that it was a horror movie, I probably wouldn't have watched. But the way they wrote even the short synopsis, there was nothing to suggest that it was a vampire story. They only said, the boy's mom had a story which she must tell or something like that, and it was the mom that was the vampire, So that unpredictability, is part of what makes a great story, because if you've read it before, so two people now started dating, they now got married, they now gave birth, their children now went to school, they also now got married. Exactly. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Let's get into a bit more, interesting dimensions. So this is a no-brainer, really. Do people make money from storytelling? Obviously, professional storytellers like filmmakers make money, make a lot of money. People in Hollywood make obscene money, from telling stories. Who are the guys that are cashing out? Maybe the third question is more relevant because people are cashing out. I mentioned a few persons already. Who are your role model storytellers? Who are the guys that get you? From a music standpoint. Sorry, what's your name?
Eroms. Eroms.
Eroms. Is that your stage name or your government name?
It's the same. It's my name and my stage name.
Okay.
It's also government name. And SARS So your question?
So your role model storytellers. Who are the storytellers that you look up to and you like?
In music?
Yeah.
Okay, locally I like Two-Face and how he tells his story of love. You can give 5 songs and you listen to everything. He's still saying the same thing, but his approach. Yeah. New school. I like Omale. How he tells his story. Sometimes you have to get to the end to know whether it's a heartbreak song or whether he's trying to chop the babe.
Okay.
Yeah, so for relatability purpose, I don't want to go into other musicians that people might not know, but those two
do it
for you. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Can be local, can be international.
I like Marvel writers and MCU writers. All of them have a very fantastic way of actually pitching, bringing in stories, and they're very creative. And I think again I did the recent DCU Batman film. I'm trying to remember his name. Yeah, Snyder. Yeah, Brian Snyder. Yeah, he's also a fantastic writer. So I always look up to him and I always look up to the stories that he brings, especially Marvel writers.
Fantastic, thanks.
To me, it's lovely to be. The stories they are related. Like when I'm singing and I'm listening to the story, I see myself in that. It's like it's a lesson to me. It's fresh and makes it.
Fantastic. Next slide, please. Thank you, everyone. So I already said a few of these things. People have been telling stories in the dawn of time. It's how humans entertain, it's how humans educate, it's how we motivate and we preserve our culture. Before there was even writing, people had relied on oral tradition, for tales of valor, experiences, origin of things, before science. we had to explain certain things that were, mysterious. Children will come and ask you, how did I come about? People didn't know there was anything like sperm or egg. So they needed to come up with stories to explain phenomena. How did streams, rivers come about? They will come up with a story. And then, even with religion, we couldn't understand the concept of God. We came up with a story. Controversial, so I won't get into it, but we came up with a story. Storytelling, I was having a conversation with a very popular friend of mine. He's a musician, he's a rapper actually. I was having a conversation with an atheist now. And he said to me that I should prove to him that Jesus Christ actually lived. And I started scratching my head. I started sweating. Because I realized that a lot of the things I believed about my faith, and I'm a proud Christian still, and I will probably always be. I just realized that I haven't actually researched a lot of things because there were stories that were passed down by pastors and my parents and older people. I never questioned them. And I felt ashamed, to be honest, because here was an atheist. One house, please. Here was an atheist who was well researched. Do you understand? He doesn't believe in the existence of God. And he had a mountain of facts. I mean, all I had were preachings, stories. Yeah. A new study in Nature Communication, which Time Magazine published recently, helps explain why. Storytelling is a powerful means of fostering social cooperation and teaching social norms. So people like that, my friend, they believe that the reason we created religious stories is because, and we created them like 3,000 years ago, was because laws were failing. Civil laws were failing. People weren't deterred from crimes and all those things by just publishing the consequences. If you tell someone that, oh, you are going to be beheaded if you sleep with someone's wife, they will still go ahead and do it. Yeah. So the moment society figured that there was a part of man that aspired to a greater connection or a belief system centered around a supreme being, then society invented religion. So if you say, God said, people are more likely to obey than if you just said, oh, the law, the constitution says, to hell with the constitution. Yeah. So, next slide, please. According to Daniel Kruger at the University of Michigan, today we may not gather around the campfire like we used to, but the average adult is still thought to spend at least 6% of the waking day engrossed in fictional stories on our various screens. So we don't have Jimmy Sholanke. I don't know how many of you know Jimmy Sholanke with his guitar. Storyland. We're not doing that anymore. But every day, we're still chopping on the regular. One common idea is that storytelling is a form of cognitive play that hones our minds. So it helps us develop. And then it helps us to simulate, it just gives power to our imagination. Because the human being is limited by, space. You can't know more than your immediate environment. So imagine before, air travel and all those things, before cars and all those things, people couldn't really go far. How many miles could you possibly walk as a human being? So they only speculated about what other parts of the world look like. So they used a lot of their imagination to fill the gaps. A lot. All right? The Bible and the Quran are two of the most powerful books of both fiction and historical stories. A lot of Christians who are very, very dogmatic and not open-minded, when you tell them that the Bible has fiction, they may fight you. But it's the fact. A lot of the things that we believed as stories from the Bible, they actually were things that were used to illustrate points. Yeah. So the parable of the talent as the name suggests, parable. It's not, it didn't happen. But there are Christians that if you tell them that thing didn't happen, they may slap you. Be like, no, heresy. Let me bust more bubble. There's a huge chance that Noah and his ark never existed. There is no historical evidence rather to that fact or to that, story. There is none. And we need, if you're a Christian or a Muslim, we need to do a bit more research so that we don't continue to embarrass ourselves. Certain things that, the story of the Garden of Eden, for instance, where is the scientific proof that that's where creation started? That story was supposedly something that happened about 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Maybe 5,000 years ago. But the world has been in existence for over 1 billion years. So how does that add up? I'm not saying God didn't create the world. Don't get me wrong. But that he created the world in the Garden of Eden, that Adam and Eve were the first humans, I'm not so sure. We may have to research it. I'm on a journey, and the Bible says, in all you're getting, get understanding. The Bible also says, study to show yourself approved. Ultimately, the search for knowledge that we all are after will lead us towards the truth. So it's not a case of, this guy, no wonder he wore black. The devil. I'm just open-minded. I'm in search of the truth. All right. Next slide, please. So as filmmakers or content creators, storytelling is at the core of what we do, people make food in their homes every day, but there are people who make food to sell, McDonald's, KFC, big restaurant chains. They make food. So storytelling might be regular, but there are people who do it professionally. Same way, filmmakers and content creators are professional storytellers. So whether you are making a music video or the music itself, a television drama series, a documentary, a commercial, short or long form, you are telling a story to your audience. And as a storyteller, you have the opportunity to connect with your audience or audiences on a very deep level to determine what people feel, how they feel, what they think, how they act. You can control those emotions. People watch films and they are crying. They know that this story is fiction. It did not happen. Oga, why are you crying? In fact, some people carry this story thing so far as to physically attack characters from movies for what they did in the movie. People, exactly. That guy, there's no way he can wash it off. So he has embraced the ritual thing. He has embraced it. There are some basic principles to learn, though. When you make decisions based on them, from pre to post, based on them, you can be a great storyteller. So if you learn the principle, everything in this world can be broken down to a how. There's a scripture I love so much, but I can't seem to remember the whole of it. Something about a fool not being able to enter the city because he doesn't know how. So, if you just say, oh, it's not a story, everybody tells stories, I'm going to become a professional storyteller, without learning how, you are going to be called a fool. Or you are going to prove yourself a fool, beyond all doubts. All right. Next slide, please. So, in marketing, for those of you who are very familiar with marketing, they taught us about the 4 Ps. Those things I can tell you, guaranteed. If you go and check online, you will find another 77 Ps. But let's keep it simple. There are 4 Ps to storytelling as well. On the basic level. As you advance, the Ps may increase. But let's focus on people, places, plot, and purpose. As defined by Still Motion, which is a successful film and photography studio in Portland, Oregon, in the US. So I'm using their model to teach the 4 Ps. Next slide, please. So I think the first and the most important component in your story is people or character. Your stories may not always have people, there's a lot of animation series that are big, you know. Lego, for instance, the Lego films. There are no actual people inside. Nickelodeon, the channel that belongs to Viacom CBS, hardly ever shows human beings.
SpongeBob.
Yeah, all them, SpongeBob, Dora the Explorer, Shima and Shine, they are all not human. But they are characters, and so your story must have, you know, the people or character component. And it simply just speaks to who the story is about. Who are the characters in your story? Characters are what connect us emotionally to the story. Going back to what Casey said before, you know, we want to have a connection to the story, an emotional connection, and it is through characters. We see characters we like, and it could be because they help us to live out our best fantasies or realities, things that we can't do by ourselves. So we connect to the character and we do it in a way through that character, or the character does it for us. So as a story writer, you want your audience to become fans of your protagonist and hate your antagonist. Okay? It's okay for your character, like I said, to not be human. Your character can be an object, it can be, you know, it doesn't have to be a person. Sometimes the characters are not the obvious ones. Next slide, please. Next slide.
Slide that is next. So
Done.
Yes, change it.
Done.
Yes, change it.
Oh, place. So I mean, I don't need to over-explain the people part or the character part. Who is your story about? Simple. Place. It's got to be set somewhere. Where does this story take place? You know, people do stories that are set in a matchbox. The most, what's that thing creaking? Is that a seat?
It's a seat.
Oh, okay. Location can add depth and intrigue to your characters and story. You need to carry who the story is about and situate it him, her, or it somewhere. It can visually communicate a great amount of information in a short period of time. You know, the moment they set a story in Lagos, you already have a bunch of details that you have filled in yourself. Exactly. What is it? Oshodi. You already know what kind of. They say village. Village people. You know. You know. When choosing the location, you know, still motion, the guys whose model I'm using, they keep the following in mind. Does the story relate to your character or overall story? Does the place rather relate to your character or your overall story? Comfort. Will the characters be comfortable, act naturally, if that's your plan? Or will they feel out of place? And that can be the story itself. Yeah, the conflict itself can be within the setting. You know, you take someone who maybe grew up abroad, never been to Africa, he shows up to Lagos in the middle of the night, his flight is delayed, and he thinks, okay, since I don't know my way around, the safest place I can go to is a police station. And that's where the entire story plays out. You know, takes himself into the police station and says, hey, I've got dollars in this bag. You see, I've already told an entire story just by the location. You can already conjure multiple scenarios, all ending badly for him. Production friendly. So from a technical standpoint, if you want to film, you've got to consider whether it will allow you enough spacing for lighting, for, you know, non-existent noise levels, so that your shoot is good. You see a lot of Nollywood movies, you can hear the generator, you know, in the background, and that's noise, and it's a distraction. You know. We all know that, yeah, light is not concerned in Nigeria, but why must I hear the sound of your generator? Can you not situate the generator far and just connect long cables, you know? Okay, that's about it for place. Next slide. Plot. What is the conflict and the journey? every story, even a commercial or a music video, needs a conflict to drive the narrative. And speaking about music videos, and you would be more interested in this, there was an era where 90% of Nigerian music videos were shot by a particular person, Clarence Peters. And that's never good for any industry. Monopoly is never good. You know? You always want a diverse market where the players can give you, a variety of, so oh, this one does this way. This is his own unique selling point. This is how. So when they come together on platforms, imagine all the movies you have access to being shot by the same director. Where's the variety? The purpose of even having industry awards is to be able to compare different styles and say, okay, this is the one that really did it for us. But if you have an industry where one person is shooting 90% of the videos, you are going to have monotony. All the videos are going to be looking the same, because even if the guy is the most creative person in the world, he'll get jaded, he'll get overbooked, overloaded, and there will be little time to ideate. So you need a conflict in music videos. A lot of times you don't have that, and it is laziness. The laziness in believing that the music already does a great deal of the work. So if the music is dope, even if you do a PowerPoint presentation and you play that music, go watch it. You know how I know? Go on YouTube. There's a lot of videos that don't actually, when created, the videos were created by the original makers of the music. So the music is popular. People just put like slides together, put the music to it, and it still gets millions of views. So music video directors hide under this fact and just do the minimum. They really don't do a lot of thinking. And I've worked with quite a number of them, a lot of DOPs and directors that I tried to bring into the commercial space, because I was filming commercials that had music components. And when I saw their work ethic on the one hand and their processes, I just knew that it's impossible. We need a new breed of music video directors who understand. You ask a director for a short list, a list of the shots that he's going to take, or treatment. And he's saying, why is all that necessary? I'm just going to have girls shaking, Yeah. Like, Oga, what is the story? Where is the story going to be set? What's the conflict? What's the plot? What exactly is happening inside this story? One of the greatest songs ever released in Nigeria is African Queen. But think about the video. Aside smiling fine girls and Two-Face, there's nothing to remember about it. It's so lazy. But because we love the music, we didn't even care. But could someone have seized that opportunity to make a masterpiece as well? There are Michael Jackson's Thriller. Was a great song already, but someone made even a greater music video to it. That story had conflict. For those of you who remember it, there's a conflict there. Okay, a story must have a central plot which consists of a conflict and at the end of it, resolution. So, conflict, you can call it problem. There is some, disruption to the normal flow of things that needs to be resolved at the end of the day. If I remember the Thriller video well, it just looked like, a guy and a babe maybe in the cinema or whatever, or on their way to the cinema or whatever. It looks like a very regular story until there's a twist. And you start seeing all these funny, scary looking creatures springing onto the scene. So suddenly you get gripped even more. Yeah, the guy is good looking. Maybe I can watch him just go into the cinema without complaining. But is that enough? The babe is also good looking, but is that enough? The conflict is what gets you on the edge of your seat. That makes you anticipate the next move. What's going to happen next? And that video, even with the fact that you've watched it multiple times, every time it comes on, it still gets you. It still gets you. 10 more minutes. Okay, good. Next slide, please. We're almost done. purpose. Why should anyone care about this story? Why are you telling the story? The purpose is probably the first thing that gets defined, even before you start writing. I'm working on a project now at the moment, for creating awareness and creating awareness for and destigmatizing mental health or mental health issues. That is the purpose. When we created MTV Sugar, we wanted to create a drama series that will teach critical things around reproductive health, HIV, gender-based violence, all the issues that society shies away from discussing to young people. And then when you define a purpose, you now ask yourself, how are we going to achieve this? How we're going to achieve this is we're going to situate those lessons right within relatable, situations or scenarios or scenes that these young people confront on a day-to-day basis and put that in a drama. What is the purpose? Because that determines everything else. Is it a comedy you should do? Is it a documentary? Is it a docu-series? All kinds. There are options to how you now deliver on the purpose. Why are you telling this story? Next. So these are like the final components, and it's quite, elaborate. So I'm just going to run through. Can I have the lights off so that I can see this thing a bit clearer? So Pixar Studios is one of the world's largest and the most successful, studio. So they have this this sort of rules that they go by. Pixar is an American computer animation studio known for critically and commercially successful feature films. It's a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Studio, obviously owned by the Walt Disney Company. So they say these are the rules to storytelling. They say number one, I'll leave this slide so that you can share with, because it's quite elaborate. It says one, you admire a character for trying more than for their success, for trying more than for their. So the attempt, the effort that they put in is what really gets you to love them. It's not necessarily because they succeeded. At the end of the day, they did not succeed. Titanic, for instance, we would have all wanted a happy ending where both Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio survived and lived happily ever after. But we connected with them. Oh, the slides have gone on. We connected with them or to them because of their struggles. Back to relatability. We almost could see ourselves, in that journey, such that if eventually when they fail, it provokes or invokes some sort of emotion from you. That's why people cry when they watch movies. The disappointment is just, the heartbreak is just too much. Say, this guy has suffered. Say, after all the suffering, he still died. Number two, you have to keep in mind what's interesting to you as an audience, not what's fun to do as a writer. They are very different. They are very different, especially when you're writing something that you hope will be commercially successful. You can't just write things that you like. As a creative director in advertising, I used to say to my guys, to my writers, if you want to write, stuff that only you like, or as an art director, you want to create stuff that you alone can relate to, you should be an artist. You should be doing art that you will frame and you put on the wall and you'll be admiring. Because if with artists, they can get away with anything. They will just say it's abstract painting. They will just do something. They don't have to explain it. So long it looks nice. They will say, in fact, the more difficult it is to understand, the higher the price. But as a storyteller, you can't do that. It is what your audience likes or will connect to that you will do. There's a lot of, in the Nigerian movie industry, most of the time, when we make movies, we make comedy. You know why? Who knows why? It sells. You know why it sells?
Nigerians are naturally happy people.
God bless you. There's greater appetite for comedy. People will say, oh, we are happy, because some people say it's because our life is already too hard. We just want to laugh. So whichever way, Number 3, trying for fame is important, but you won't see what the story is actually about till you are at the end of it. So you may want to string a theme, from start to finish, so that it makes sense. And I think in trying to do that, you make your story predictable. Back to what I think you said, predictability. So it's good to attempt for some sort of flow, but it's always important that you keep the best for the last. That people can't see you coming till the end of it. That's what makes a great story. Number 4, once upon a time there was every day, one day, because of that, until finally. That's how you build up. Sometimes there's a pattern, sometimes there's no pattern. Then finally, bam. Romantic comedies are far more predictable. We know that the love interests are going to get married at the end of the day. But the intrigue in the middle point, every day, one day, because of this, because of that, still grips us. 5, simplify, focus, combine characters. Hop over detours. You feel like you're losing valuable stuff, but it sets you free, That's pretty straightforward. Sometimes it feels like, oh, this story should wrap now. For those who saw King of Boys in the cinema, it was a 3-hour-long movie. And a lot of people felt like, it's too long now. What am I sitting down for 3 hours? That's exactly what happened. Kemi Adetiba would have felt like, I've packed too much into this. And for that thing to have been 3 hours, when they did the first cut down, the second cut down, they probably had like 6 hours on their hands, trust me. Yeah, but it does set you free, because you also need the freedom to tell the story. Because if you keep restricting yourself, this story must not be more than 1 hour. You should work for Globacom or MTN and be selling airtime. As a creative storyteller, set yourself free. People will watch it if it's great. The Godfather was a series. What is your character good at? Number 6. What is he comfortable with? Throw the polar opposite at them. Challenge them. And then see how they deal with it. Okay? Next slide, please. I may not finish the whole thing, so. Number 7, come up with your ending before you figure out your middle. Interesting. How does the movie end? Come up with it before you figure out the middle. See, and that's the good thing. You can always, tweak stuff. And I know a lot of Nigerian storytellers who, because there is an opportunity, especially with Wedding Party 2, the Dubai Tourism Board had some budget to promote Dubai tourism. That thing wasn't part of the original story. They quickly tweaked the middle and put traveling to Dubai, taking people to Dubai as part of it. That's the flexibility that, defining the ending first gives you. The middle we can always, 8, finish your story, let go even if it's not perfect. In an ideal world, you have both, but move on and do better next time. There is no, I'm aiming for perfection the first time. Nah. As a matter of fact, until, based on our timeline, we have to produce. As creative director, I always retained that license to come back and say, I want to change this. Even when we're already, shooting, I'm telling the director, what if we do this? What if we do that? I remember, I'll tell a short story. There was a French-Canadian co-creative director. I don't know how many of you ever saw Glow Suya. There was a Glow commercial that was quite popular where one guy, Sunny Danger, went to buy suya and he was testing the suya. And then he said it was time to pay. He said, is it not free tomorrow? I buy them yesterday and pay. I don't supposed to pay. So that's my commercial. And when we were filming, the French guy came and said, instead of the Hausa suya seller just getting angry and maybe threatening to
stab the guy, whatever, that he should actually throw a set of knives, like 12, in the direction of the guy. So the guy will be pinned against the wall, the thing will just go chip, 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 chip. I say, oh God, this is not Bollywood. In Nigeria, that is too much violence. You can't But at least they made an attempt while we were producing. Yeah. Number 9, when you're stuck, make a list of what wouldn't happen next. Lots of time, the material to get you unstuck will show. Yeah? Yeah, that's the key thing to note for those of you who write their stories. You know, just write a number of things that should not happen next. For sometimes it's as basic as, next time I'm writing, my phone will be off. Because the reason you are dragging is because you get distracted. So make a note, and next time I'm sitting down to do this, I'm switching off my phone. You know, no calls for 2 hours. Number 10, pull apart the story you like. What you like in them is a part of you. You've got to recognize it before you can use it. So everybody who writes a story has a unique signature about them. That's how we know who did what. Even in music, you know, if you give 5 artists the same story to tell, they will tell them uniquely, such that if they play you the songs, you'll be able to say, this is this person different from this person, because they have their signature. That's what makes you unique. You can't tell because some style is working, you go and do it in the way that someone else will do it. You only be imitating, and clearly people can tell. People who know you will be able to tell that, this is not the style. 11, putting it on paper lets you start fixing it. If it stays in your head, a perfect idea, you'll never share it with anyone. Simple facts, self-explanatory. Next slide. Is there a slide after this? Is there? I think there is. So you know what?
Yes.
Yeah, there is. So how many more minutes do we have? Okay, so
17 out of 24.
Good. So skip it. Go to the next slide. These things are some of them we've spoken about. Go to the next slide. Good. Yeah. This is more critical for me, so I'm just going to, stop here. For some of you in the room, you may be asking yourself, okay, we've heard, we are storytellers, how do we make money? At the end of the day, that's how do we make money? I just wanted to highlight some of the opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years. So right now, every time an actor, especially the ladies, come online to post their new cars, the trend is that people will bash them and say, they are sleeping around. How is it that it's only the females that are buying cars? The male are not buying cars. RMG has not bought new Range Rover. One actress that has not even done up to 5 films has bought 2021 Range Rover. The reason we have all those controversies is because there's not a lot of value within the value chain currently. People can't make money sustainably. Let's be honest with ourselves. I don't know that there is any actor in Nigeria who makes 30 million a year from acting. There is none. I don't have to check. I don't have to check. So there are opportunities that will change that. In April this year, there's something they call the digital switch over, which already happened, which is if you buy your TV, or before now, if you bought a TV set, all you needed to do to watch channels was to just buy an antenna, right? Now, by October this year, there's going to be a switch off of analog signals. So you will not be able to just, plug in an antenna and watch. Everybody now needs to get what you call a set-top box. All of us must have a box to watch TV. You know what that does? It means that we can now capture the actual size of TV audiences and be able to monetize them. What that means is that right now, Channels TV doesn't know how many people watch them. Do you understand? So even if it's an ad revenue-based model that they are running, they can't properly put the right price on their airtime. So that's why Channels TV cannot come and acquire your film and say, give me your film for $1 million. Because they can't get the money from advertisers. Because they don't know how many people are watching them. From October this year, that story ended for life. So those of you who are creating content now can get paid for the content that you are making, because the TV channels themselves will be making a lot of money going forward. Cable, Now, there will be an explosion in channels and platforms. Virtually everyone in this room will be attracted to making content, trust me. In America, it is, if all the currency is just great content, if it's great content, the big studios will pick it up. They will pay big money. Similarly in Nigeria, there will be opportunities for anyone who has great content to make money. SVOD, AVOD, that's subscription video on demand, advertising video on demand, streaming, and OTT are over the top platforms. All these Netflix and whatnot, there's going to be an explosion. My company alone is launching 2, Pluto TV, Paramount TV, from next year. There will be too many options to choose from, and those platforms will need your content. They will need content that their subscribers can watch. Next slide. YouTube, other digital platforms will explode, because what then happens is that data costs will crash. People will keep coming up with technology to compress videos and retain quality. So people need a lot of data to watch content. All right? And content will create a lot of Nigerian millionaires and billionaires in the next 10 or 15 years. It's inevitable. It's not a prophecy. Please don't say amen. I'm telling you what will happen. And then remember, it's a long game, stay the course. You may start your content creation from just Instagram and feel like, oh, because only 2,000 people are watching it, it's not worth your while. You know, it's a long game. I'm talking 10, 15 years. Even if you buy property, it doesn't appreciate immediately now. Exactly. Almost, except Yahoo, and we know how much property ended. So just stay the course. Be patient, all right? Is there one more slide? Yeah. So some other considerations, you have to understand the landscape, you have to analyze your audience, you have to leverage the power of idea. Of course, that's the currency. Your idea must be unique, different. Next slide, please. You must create original stories, you must be disruptive, you must develop a killer pitch. And this one is, even is the last thing I say, please pay attention. A lot of people can't get what is due them, even after they've created great content, because they don't know how to pitch their ideas. If you take them to a room, if I carry your content and say, follow me, let's go to Netflix, let's go and negotiate the deal, you see people underselling themselves. They'll get into the room, they really can't, you know, deliver a pitch that will get them what is due them. This is a skill that you either develop or you get someone on your team who can sell to do it for you. It is not acquired by laying of hands or speaking in tongues. You have to learn how to negotiate. This is what I have, this is what is worth, and this is what I want. NBA stars, they start getting big endorsement deals until they started collaborating with black people, black executives who could sit at the table and negotiate the right deals for them. Just knowing how to play basketball doesn't mean that you get money. Air Jordan, the brand, the Nike Jordan, has made more money for Michael Jordan than basketball ever made for him. Jay-Z became a billionaire. Only a third of that 1 billion came from music. So you've got to learn the business side of things, how to do business. If you don't know it, then get a partner into the business who may not be a creative guy, but knows how to speak the language of business and can close deals for you. Okay? Then win the room. Make a deal. Next slide. Finally, make use of the most powerful equipment in your hand, your mobile phone. There are mobile phones that shoot 8K. Now, 4K. The quality is mad. I shot a piece of content about 2 weeks ago for Mitsubishi called Drive Your Ambition. They just put mobile phones on the dashboard. 2 mobile phones on the dashboard and 1 behind. And by the time we're done filming, if I told you that they put Alexa, which is, for those of you who know cameras, or Red, you would have said, yes, see the quality. Mobile phones. That's what some of you are using to make video call, WhatsApp video call. You can make so much money from those things. And then shoot. Never stop shooting and telling unique stories. You will only get better by doing it regularly. Okay? That's the only way.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for. I hope we all learned something very new, something very interesting. Please a round of applause for him again. That was such an insightful session. I learned a whole lot. I learned a whole lot about storytelling. I mean, it just makes me realize that everybody is a storyteller, whether we like it or not. But it's about the intentionality that provides the money and makes it a great story. But anyways, right about now, we are going into our panel session. Now, in this session, we're going to be asking our panelists certain questions about storytelling, about brand advertising, and a lot more. But before they come up, there will be a video to tell us about them. So we have Joshua Alade, Adeola Adejoko, and Opeyemi Akinwoliola. But before the video comes up, Davidson has a very brief announcement for us. Davidson, please come up. Please clap for him.
I almost forgot that we can't share mics. COVID. Thank you so much. But at least you can get to hug me, right? Okay, COVID restrictions. Forgive me. So, amazing session. Thank you so much for your patience. But we have a quick announcement too, actually. We have a lost but found item, so please, you may want to listen carefully to know if it belongs to you. If you're a lady here and you can't find one of your eyelashes, we saw it somewhere outside. That's on a lighter note, sorry. I'm here to announce that do not be in a hurry to go. After the next session, we're having, we have some light refreshments for you. Not so light, actually. Great jerky, just something that can help us. Right. That's on a lighter, let me not go into details. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. All right then. The technical guys are going to play the video right now for our panelists. Okay.
Joshua Alade is a positive youth development campaigner and a sustainability consultant working on education and decent work for young people and women. He is the Executive Director of Nigerian Youth SDGs Network, a national coalition of youth-led focused civil society organizations driving accountability and local advocacy for sustainable development goals implementation projects. In 2020, with funding from the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, Joshua worked with the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports to design the implementation of the Nigerian Youth Employment Action Plan. Working with more than 72 youth champions around Nigeria, via a survey, 212,000 young Nigerians shared their decent work aspirations, the barriers they face, and how policymakers in Nigeria can help them. This was followed by a validation event called Decent Jobs Youth Lab, which had 850 youth organizations gathered across the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT. Joshua is extremely passionate about meaningful youth engagement in the developmental agenda of Nigeria. He worked with the United Nations to host 4 youth dialogues to commemorate the 75th year anniversary of the multilateral organization. Joshua is a graduate of the University of Lagos and a prospective master's student of the University of Bradford. He has a certificate in non-profit executive leadership from the Lagos Business School. Join me in welcoming Joshua. Adiola Adejoku is a marketing communication professional with multi-sector experience spanning public affairs, corporate communication, digital marketing, and brand management in bilateral trade, aviation, information and communications technology, investment and commercial banking, FMCG, learning and development, and financial sector development, amongst others. He has delivered communication campaigns successfully for leading brands that include Sterling Bank, Guinness Nigeria PLC, MTN Nigeria Communication, Stanbic Holdings, Genesis Analytics, Media Fuse Dentsu Aegis, Algorithm Media, British Council, Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access, and the Government of the Kingdom of Netherlands. Adiola is a philosophy graduate of Lagos State University, a member of the National Institute of Marketing, NIMN, the Advertising Practitioners Council of Nigeria, Outcome, and the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, NIPR. He is also an alumnus of the School of Media and Communication, Pan Atlantic University, Lagos. Join me in welcoming Adiola Adejoku. Okpe Akinwoleola has business development and partnership work experience of over 5 years in the reskilling and talent development space. He is a business analyst with a technology background, having built several startups, both as a critical team member in key growth areas and also as a founder. He has project and product management skills as well as an expertise in growth for players in digitally emerging verticals in emerging markets. Okpe is an alumnus of the prestigious Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology and the Daystar Leadership Academy. Join me in welcoming Okpe Akinwoleola.
Please a round of applause for them once again. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. So, everyone, welcome to the panel session. So we're going to be engaging them in really interesting conversations about storytelling and, the hopes and, the future of storytelling in this day and age. So I'd like to start with you, Diola. Yeah, Diola. So, because times have changed, and from the session we just had with Bada, we said a lot about how that back in the day storytelling used to be about Yonibo and the tortoise and all of that. But a lot of things have changed in this dispensation. So, what would you say is the future of storytelling, in this day and age, especially with the use of technology?
Okay, thank you very much. Like we've been told before now by the earlier speaker, we are all storytellers. Communities, people, organizations, even the government tell stories. With technology, storytelling has actually changed in the last 10 years very rapidly. And it has become a game of platforms and talent. And the future I see for storytelling is something more immersive. And when I say immersive, I'm talking about a transmedia narrative, meaning that storytelling is going to further evolve from what we used to know it to be today. Before now, storytelling used to be a one-way thing. And I would like to draw an interesting analogy from what the Yoruba people of southwestern Nigeria call radio. They call it asoromagbesi, meaning that, the radio is always talking to you and you can't talk back. But we've seen an evolution even with the radio itself, with call-in programs. All of that has changed. But with storytelling that has now become a game of platforms, it is no longer dominated by big media that shape narratives. Storytelling has been democratized. Everybody can tell a story. And the next level is immersion. And I'll use the example of Harry Potter. The Harry Potter series today, it's in book format, film format, online, and is actually a video game. And with that particular format, games, gamification, people can actually immerse themselves into that particular experience. And a lot of what will be done, what we will see in the future, will be built around the interest of the audience and the engagement. And let me close by using the TikTok experience. A lot of people on TikTok today take content created, interesting content created by others, and there's something they do with that content. I've forgotten the right word for that today. And you would hear the voice of the original creator of that content, and they would engage with that content in an interesting way. That's an example of an immersive experience. Social actions taking place with content. And I would say that that is the future of storytelling, even for government, for brands, and for everyday people like you and I.
All right, thank you very much for that. That was very, insightful. So Joshua, I'm going to be, asking you now. So from your bio, we see that you've done a lot of social work. You've worked with the SDG and so many other interesting platforms like that. I'd like to ask, what is your favorite storytelling platform so far and why?
It's usually in between Twitter and Facebook.
Pardon?
As I said, it's usually in between Twitter and Facebook. And the reason why I say this is because with Twitter, it's easier for me to tell a story in like 280 characters, and it's a story that speaks to the need that, for instance, like I tell people that, do you know, like just last night, over 300 million children went to bed without knowing what they were going to eat in the morning. And somebody was like, wow, really? So it goes from just you alone to making you see that poverty is like something that is local, is close to you, just because you don't know, that's why you cannot relate to it. And then Facebook also, because we have a lot of people there, and when you share these stories, the people who understand what poverty is, they'll be able to tell you that, yes, I think I know this, I went to bed and I did not eat last night. So whatever this person is saying makes a lot of sense.
Okay then, so to follow up on that, I mean, how does like most of these platforms, you mentioned Twitter, you mentioned Facebook, how do you think they sort of like support compelling storytelling such that, it helps to create advocacy, awareness about social issues?
All right, great. So because these platforms allow for videos and photos, and you can see every one of these things, like people can relate to them, and I can give a very good instance. Last year, while working on a campaign talking about creating decent job for young Nigerians, we shot a 2-minute video just showing how people people do not have jobs, and you expect them to eat, you expect them to fend, but they don't have jobs. And your video actually also captured how the fact that there are other people who really want to, they are entrepreneurial, but there's nobody to support them. So when we shot this 2-minute video, it had a lot of retweets on, like everything was organic. In fact, it got to a point whereby people from different parts of Nigeria started making videos of their own and calling up people in government that say this is the kind of job we want. And with what we did, we compiled that video. Sometime in December, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with the Deputy UN Secretary General. And when she was there with the Minister for Youth and Sport and Women Affairs too, and we showed them the video and like, this is what's happening out there. Young Nigerians want to work, but there's no work for them. Even for most of them where there is work, it's not decent. Some of them are even talking about the need to just, I want to have a job that shows that I have a contract. So it was through that video, it made them see that there's really the importance of working around policy that will create jobs for young Nigerians. So videos are very effective, pictures are very effective, and I think something else that we may not also know is that all petitions are also very effective ways of amplifying stories of people.
All right, thank you very much for that. Opeyemi, so you are you're into talent development and the likes, and one interesting question I would like to ask you, because especially with the way things are in Nigeria, from your bio, you helped a couple of, startups and all of that. How are you able to raise this fund, for young people and startups like that?
Okay. Interestingly, this question ties back to something that the previous speaker, in the previous session that he mentioned, the killer pitch idea. If you don't have a killer pitch, you're not in the world we are in right now, right? And I've been privileged to listen to like a lot of amazing pitches. Some of them have been content pitches, like literally for movies, right? Some of them have been like pitches for AI products. I've heard pitches for virtual reality products, augmented reality products. I've heard pitches for actual literal infrastructure. And the singular tie between all of those pitches is that it's a story, right? Before you can convince me to part with my money for whatever purpose you want to use it for, you have to tell me a convincing enough story, right? Now, if that story clicks with me, I get happy, and I have a more positive disposition towards what you're trying to do. And the likelihood that I would literally become an evangelist on your behalf, right, is incredibly high. So, just going from that session, obviously the speaker was an amazing storyteller because he came, he told the story, we all listened, we all connected, even though not everybody here is an expert at ads, right? But yet you connected to the story. So stories are like that, but the critical thing for me is also the medium, right? Now, I do a lot of work in technology, and that's like kind of why I'm here to talk about how you can use technology and storytelling. So your ability to understand the medium in which you're trying to tell a story is so important because the medium affects the message that you're able to pass, right? If I'm telling a story in augmented reality, for example, what are the properties, or should I say, what are the quirks of that medium that affect my storytelling, right? If I'm telling a story via radio, there are certain things that I have to consider. If I'm telling a story via TV, there are certain things I have to consider. And if I'm telling that story via social media, it changes, right? And you've seen that you had to use a 2-minute video, right? Because of short-form content on most social platforms. So for me, that's where storytelling sort of like has its critical use. Once you can understand that it's an everyday skill that you need to work with, right? And you can apply it to how you talk about your ideas, you can raise most of the funds you need to raise, as long as you're a legit person.
That's very important, as long as it's legit. So I think everyone here should, understand that we are all storytellers, and being able to sell yourself and pitch yourself really goes a long way. So you also, like I said, you're a talent developer. For people that are here that might not really understand what, if there's any difference between being into talent development and training, is there anything, absolutely different from
They are worlds apart. Training is one thing, talent development is another. training is basically you instilling in someone the ability to routinely accomplish a task, right? You can train anybody to do anything. You can train someone to be able to carry his chair, right? That's normal. But talent development is it's about molding the mind of the individual, right? You just don't want the individual to do a task over and over again. You want the individual to be a creator. Now, I'm saying that not just because we are talking about storytelling and creatives. I'm saying that because it's that ability to create, right, that defines talent. You're not talented if you can't create, right? So that's kind of like one major trait for me. So if I was to differentiate between those two things, that's what I would say.
All right then, thank you. Diola, so you mentioned that, the future of storytelling is, going to get bigger with time. This is a very competitive market right now. Obviously, with the years, it's going to get more competitive. But then how do you push out your content or your stories in such a competitive market, especially with, the way things are right now, especially using technology as well?
Okay. Talking about pushing out stories, my understanding of your question is about engaging and winning, and possibly, getting people to interact with that content that you've developed in that space. So I would say the first rule is to understand your target audience, your audience. So your audience is the customer and the audience is king. So how do you treat a king? With respect. And not just respect. You do not do what a king does not want, because you would lose your head in the traditional Yoruba setting or anywhere else in the world if this is the 12th, 13th, 14th or 15th century. But even at that, not much has changed when it comes to nobility and royalty. So your customer, your target audience is nobility, royalty. You must understand them, and you must push out content that is relevant to them, that supports their everyday needs, aspirations, that will make them laugh, make them cry, make them hope. So some of the things we've spoken about, that I've spoken about now, actually speaks to, connections. Connecting to, who they want to be, who they are, their background, and what they aspire to be. Now, once you're sure of who your target audience is, and you're not doing one size fits all, the next thing would be for you to develop content that is relevant to that target audience. And let me have back again and say to you that in the online comedy space, we have Mr. Macaroni, we have the young lady called Emanuela, we have Sabalo, and all of that. These are all comedians. There are people here who would like and prefer one over the other. All these comedians, they speak to different target audience. So they know their audience, they develop content that actually appeal to a niche segment, and they are successful for those reasons. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Joshua, so just in your final words, or how you wrap it all up, how do you think that, we're looking at the very positive side of storytelling, but obviously there's sometimes that the dark side, the negative areas can be, can affect people, especially young people. What do you think, or how do you think that can be changed? Because in itself, anything in the world obviously has its good side and its bad side. But how do you think that we can curtail that bad side to not make it, more prevalent in the society?
All right. So if I understand your question very well, one of the things that is very important is positive messaging, even when something difficult or something bad is really happening. And I can give you a very good example in aspect of the climate emergency. I'm sure you know, like water is everywhere in Lagos right now, and it just shows that if we do not do anything about it, the water is going to come to reclaim what belongs to it. So right there, it's the message of we asking people, when you are building, make sure that you build your house with nature in view, plant a tree and all that. So also when we're telling stories, telling young people to shun bad vices, is also to make them see the good parts when they embrace what is right, what is noble, and there are a lot of examples and stories to share. So rather than just talking about the bad vices only, but just showing the light on all the good things, people who are really doing well. We've had beautiful stories today of people with what they are doing. Like I watched Davidson a lot on IG, and it's normal, that doesn't make sense, but yeah, so I knew, well, when he was speaking to some children, I was like, he wants them to do something normal, and they're like, what is normal? See, normal is when you are normal. So like that's using comedy to preach good advice in a good way. So I think that's what we should use our stories to do, to show what is negative out there, but telling people to embrace what is right, because that's very much important. And we're in a society whereby it is what they see every time, what they consume every time, that they become. It's everywhere. If you see people, like, it's just the way, sorry to bring this in, but if you listen to most of our music lyrics these days, there are a lot glorifying what should not be out there. Sometimes I ask myself that, what kind of songs will my children listen to? It's something I am thinking about. What kind of songs will they 2-year-old
and say, oh, do I need a mentor? But my mentor too should know that it is my story.
Interesting. Before I answer that, do you mind if I answer that first and add a few words to the Ogada Talks conversation earlier about immersiveness? Okay, great. So we have this interesting dynamic with mentorship in Nigeria that's really weird. And I think it's as a result of the average Nigerian's aggressiveness, which is something that has obviously helped us on the world scene right now. But I can tell you, let's say authoritatively, that Nigerians are not as teachable as we think we are, right? And it's no fault of ours, it's our environment, our mindset, but that's changing little by little, right? There's a difference between understanding that you need mentorship, right? And just looking for approval, right? Without wanting to take on that emotional basketballs that your mentor is not your friend, by the way. That emotional basketballs that your mentor will put you through in order to get out that masterpiece of art you are trying to create, or masterpiece of content that you are trying to create. A lot of them just don't want that, right? They just want to slide something over to you and they don't want to say, hey, that's awesome, that's good to go. You validated that person. And that's what you see also when people pitch ideas everywhere, right? Send me your deck. You send the deck. The idea is amazing. I understand the idea, but I see that there are a lot of issues that you're going to face when speaking to an investor. And I call you out on them and give you, a correction, right? And that becomes, that guy, he just doesn't want me to.
Doesn't want my progress.
Exactly. He doesn't want my progress. He's a hater. He's this, he's that. And, that makes it difficult for people to put themselves out there as mentors, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And what I realize again as well is that we kind of have a way of looking down on our peers as mentors, right? For example, technology is my jam, right? And a lot of folks that I speak to in the fintech space are like, yeah, he doesn't have any fintech experience. So what does he know about fintech, right? Meanwhile, I just enjoy my own space. You enjoy yours. That doesn't mean I can't give you some advice on that space. Obviously, you're an expert on that space, right? But a lot of times, if you can see the kind of magic that happens when peer-to-peer mentorship happens, if you've experienced it, you have a class, for example, right? And the class learns from each other. If you've seen that happen and you've seen the kind of magic that people can create, you see the value in working within your own sort of like peer group, right? So maybe I should phrase it this way. Some of the most successful content creators in Nigeria are part of a community of peers, and they learn from each other, right? A lot of us don't know their community of peers. We don't know that network exists, but they learn from each other. They create content off of each other, right? Oh, this guy did this. So how did you do it? What did you do? Oh, I did this. I did it this way. I did it this way, right? And boom, another piece of content that's banging, right? So once we can understand those two key things, hey, spend time, be not humble, but be accepting and be teachable, right? Put yourself out there, right? Get the goals that is going to fine-tune your stuff. Whether it's from your peers, whether it's from an older mentor, wherever it is from, you need that to create amazing stuff.
All right. So to buttress what you said on immersion.
Oh yeah. Thank you for on immersion. One of the things that I've begun to realize in my journey in my career is that we tend to, as Nigerians, we tend to have this incredible ability to put ourselves out in the world, right? There's nothing that we do as Nigerians that doesn't become, in one form or the other, it becomes a global topic to talk about. Right now, in the venture capital space, ask anybody who is in the startup space here, one of the hottest topics in the venture capital space right now are Nigerians. Whether it's the talent, whether it's the products we build, whether it's our crazy comedians, whether it's the fraud that's happening here, those are the conversations that are being had, right? And what's interesting to me is that when we talk about technology in our storytelling, right, we're not talking about technology from the perspective of a global audience. We are no longer playing on the small stage anymore, right? This is no longer Nollywood. We are creating content for, Iya Talamago and Baba Ojuku. You understand what I'm saying? So we are playing on the global stage, and the mediums we decide to play with should reflect that. For example, I've got one of the folks that I've worked with in here, it's probably inside there somewhere, and in 3 nights, we created a pitch for Guinness. What did we want to do for them? We wanted to use augmented reality to tell amazing stories around the Origin brand. It didn't fly, sadly, but imagine yourself, walking into the airport in Murtala Mohammed, like the Murtala Mohammed airport, is it 1 or 2, whichever one. You walk in there, and as you're walking in, you just walk by the door, and you saw one Igwe, and you just look back, and you see that you yourself are literally the Igwe that you saw, right? It's just a simple TV, right? The what's it called? The rectangular one that we use for out of home advertising. It's just a simple TV. It has a camera, right? And we are literally putting the regalia of the Igbo on you. What does that say to someone who's of Igbo ancestry, right? What does that say to someone who's of Yoruba ancestry if he sees himself as the Oni of Ife, right? Or someone of Northern ancestry who sees himself literally in a boat on the River Niger during the Agungu festival, right? Now those are stories, those are micro stories, but they are stories nonetheless. What about the person who enjoys football, for example, right? And walks through there and just sees someone bouncing the ball and turns and he sees that it's himself, and he starts moving his head and he's bouncing the ball and he's scoring points and he earns some award for that, whatever it is. That's just an example of how technology can work. And this is literally what we pitched to the guys at the AG. Sure, it didn't work out, but we had a working demo and we had their marketing executive doing nothing with it like this, trying to know the football. Right? The stories we tell and the mediums we decide to tell them with are so important because guess what? We have a unique position in the world today where we are going to determine the future of media. It's not an argument. There's a reason why Microsoft's mixed reality team, half of them are domiciled in Nigeria. They did an event recently and everybody was like, wow. Half of the teams that built that stuff are in Nigeria. If you have some time, research the HoloLens. Just type HoloLens 1 or HoloLens 2. You'll be stunned by what is possible. And we've built stuff using that same HoloLens. So, just wanted to add stuff to, when you talked about immersiveness, yeah. Right? And this is the kind of immersion that the world is expecting. They are not waiting for the future to see it. They want to see it now. And they are Nigerians who are creating content, whether they be games, whether they be videos, however it is, who are creating content around that.
Thank you so much. There's a round of applause for him. I mean, I think we have all learned something very, insightful from everything that he said. The future of storytelling in this dispensation is really big. I think everyone should take a cue from that and be a little more intentional about how they tell stories using their gadgets, their phones, whatever, little opportunity you can use via the internet. Thank you all so much for your time. Please, a round of applause for them as we go back to the stage. All right, now, so we are having another session with Dr. Shuaibu. Yeah, but there'll be a video to, play on the screen about his profile. Yeah.
Trained and seasoned theatre, film, broadcast, Shuaibu Hosseini obtained a PhD in mass communication from the University of Lagos. A trained and seasoned theatre, film, broadcast, public relations and culture expert. An alumnus of the United States International Visitors Leadership Program, Shuaibu is reputed as one of the most consistent documentarists of Nigeria's vibrant movie industry, Nollywood. And he is an astute commentator on arts, theatre and film development in Nigeria and the continent of Africa. The chair for 10 years running of the selection committee of Africa's Premier Film Award, the African Movie Academy Awards, AMA, and a member of the prestigious AMA jury. Shuaibu has attended several conferences, worked in festivals, and has sat and currently sits on a number of local and international committees on film, theatre, and allied matters, including serving on the board and on the jury of a number of festivals and award committees. A deputy director at the National Troupe of Nigeria and an adjunct lecturer at the Department of Mass Communication of the University of Lagos. Shuaibu sits on the board of the Association of Movie Journalists of Nigeria the African Student International Film Festival, the Mainframe Film Institute, in short International Film Festival, and on the board of the Bank of Industry BOI Nollywood Forum, amongst others. The author of Moviedom, The Nollywood Narratives, Shoaibu was chair of the jury of the 2019 edition of the KD International Film Festival, Monrovia, Liberia, and the chairman of the jury of the 2019 In Short International Film Festival. He is a current member of the Nigeria Official Selection Committee, charged with the responsibility of deciding Nigeria's entry for the Best International Film category for the Oscars. Join me in welcoming Shoaibu Hussein.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sometimes when you run these things, you wonder whether you are the person they are trying to introduce. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really gained, from the previous speakers and the panel that we met. And when I was running through the profile, when I was watching the profile of our panelists and our former speaker, I knew him. I just knew that I was in the right place. I mean, this is the place to be, because it's not really about the abada wearing. It's about what comes out from the person. But I'm really delighted to be here. You will permit me if I didn't come with a slide or something. Like, things started happening differently since Kelly told me about anything to have to be different. To me, in the last 2 days, my computer packed up. And then I was coming to Ikeja today, and somewhere around LTV8, the car started misbehaving. So I decided to be different. So I entered into LTV, left it there, and then called a friend of mine who used to call me early morning to come and do a program for him. And I said, this is your time to pay back. So please help me, I will leave my car here. I have a presentation to make, I cannot. And to be different, I didn't call Kelly to say, oh, I'm not coming again, I have car problem. So I decided that I will come, and then I can sort out the car, because that's another story, in fact, So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for, I want to say congratulations to the organizers and thank them for giving me the privilege to be here. I don't take it for granted at all. Anytime there's an opportunity to talk about storytelling, I like to jump at it, because my life is about story. I watch every day. I mean, like today, while I was sitting down there, somebody was already telling me that I need to send in some results for the Kaduna International Film Festival. And the festival comes up on the 8th, and we need to begin to think about those who will win the awards. So it's story, watching films every day, and everything about me is about story. I didn't come here to give a very long talk. I just came to share, with you what has helped me, not only as a storyteller, but as somebody who has been involved in development around storytelling and the rest. And I thank the organizers for the topic particularly, because actually, if you want to make it in this our thankless industry, you really need to be different. You really need to, be different. And right from when I was in secondary school, my storytelling life, let me just do that for you briefly. My storytelling life started actually when I was 2. When I got there, they were telling me that I had to belong to the press club and the rest. But everything about the press club was just to come and to read newspapers. Our press club master would buy us newspapers and ask us to read. I've had enough of English in class. They will still come and say we'll be reading and the rest. So I thought that there was a need for us to do something differently. So I decided and introduced the newspaper that has become like, a model for newspapers. In secondary school, I'm telling you, 1982. At that time, we didn't have any press. So what would I do? I would go to a lady who types, and we would do it on stencil, and then we would print it. And in the morning, I would come and pass them in our lecturers' offices and all that. So that's how it started for me. I was writing those stories, I was telling them, and then from there we grew into the drama club, and then we grew into the debating society, continued like that until I came to the National Tribune. Yeah. But where I actually started telling stories, was when, my path crossed with the doing of that Ogunde. I was with Ogunde in Ososa from 1989 till when he died in 1991. And one of the things that, I got from Hubert Ogunde was that he was naturally a storyteller. So most of the time when he wants to drink his gari, Jebu gari of course, and then he will invite me, we will sit down and we will talk and we will share ideas. And from him I knew some secrets which I will want to share with you guys today. I will do my best, to send something very small to Kelechi so that he can share it all with all of us. But I will just spend a few time to just look at some points that we need to do. And basically what has helped me, what has helped great storytellers is the fact that they don't go with the crowd or they do what everybody will want to do. If you want to succeed as a storyteller, you don't do what everybody is doing. You must do your best to make sure that you go deeper. And then you tell the kind of stories that, will make you slightly different. Even Albert Einstein told us that the person who follows the crowd will usually go no further than the crowd, and the person who walks alone is likely to find himself in places, where nobody has seen before. So once you want to tell a story, you must try as much as possible to not follow the crowd. In Nollywood, where I cover, where I document, you find out that one of the problems they have in Nollywood is the bandwagon approach. They have a problem with bandwagonism, and that's the fact that if wedding party sells today, the whole narrative for that period will be wedding party. If anything sells today, they will just follow that trend. Everybody now is into some comic stuff or whatever, because they found that macaroni is cashing in, but they don't know that macaroni is different from every other person he has done. And I listened to the panelists where they're saying that, there's a target, especially my brother who said there's a target audience for everybody, So you have to do something different. You don't need to follow the crowd. In the industry, there is a set of boys, there are about 4 of them, very young, still under 35. They are doing so much, although they are not cashing in like the regular Nollywood people, but they have international recognition. They are traveling, like they are the most traveled filmmakers that we have in the industry. And I'm talking like people like Abba Makama, I'm talking about people like CJ Obasi, These guys just decided to say, look, we are not doing all this melodrama. We want to do some arty stuff. We want to do some arty films. And we want to speak universal language of film, because film is actually universal. It's not. There's nothing like Nigerian film. I've had problems with some filmmakers on the African Movie Academy Awards, where I serve as selection process chairman, and they come and tell us every time when they judge our films with other films from other parts of the world, when I for create category for Nigerian film. I said, no, we don't have to create category for Nigerian film. We need to speak the universal language, even though we have to produce in a local context. Even though we have to speak, produce it from our context, but we begin to speak universal language. Check, today, a film called Eyimofe by still young boys who are under 35 is opening in the United States at the Royal Court Theatre. That's huge for those who know, because you really cannot break into theatrical distribution in the US. It's really tough. But it's opening today. And that's some boys who decided to tell a simple Nigerian story. The story they will tell about somebody who is dying to get a passport to get out of the country and all that. They told a simple story, 2 twin brothers, still under 30 years, in fact 30 years, still under 30 years. They told that story. The film has gone to Toronto, the film has gone to Berlin. We've never had a Berlin outing. Wow. never in this country. I've followed the industry, so I know. The film has shown in Berlin, Toronto. It's showing in US today. Today, it's opening a Royal Court Theater in California today. Wow. So that's huge. So that's someone wants to do, who doesn't want to follow the crowd. Who doesn't want? If you will follow the crowd, you will get the crowd fame, the crowd money. But if you do something different, and then you are patient, because our last speaker told us something about, that you really need to give some time. You may think that it's not working, but it is working. It will work. Because these guys, I was on a platform when I posted and I said, these guys are going to Toronto this year, this arts collective who are doing something different. And they told me they should continue, that one day, they should be traveling while we'll be getting a lot. I felt like they don't understand, what they are saying, but I didn't want to be insulted. So I said, okay, be getting your alert. They will be getting international recognition. And just today, one of them just told me that he has gotten a grant, from this international outing to do a film, and is going to employ this same child. I didn't even tell him that there was a discussion last night. He's just going to employ this same child to direct the film for him. So he go pay him a lot. And then when that happens, then I will reveal. I will now tell him that there was a day I was having a conversation, and this same guy said you should be traveling, and then they'll be getting a lot. I mean, you need to do something different if you want to succeed as a storyteller. I mean, if Mr. Macaroni had come in and decided to do what AY does, you will just stay there. Because AY has built a brand, the crowd. And there's something you do to say, if now AY do this one. Okay. But look at this guy, he just came in and started doing you're doing well. And everybody is doing. So you must not follow the crowd. It is very important that we understand that point. So that's number one for me. And I've never followed the crowd in anything they do. And then the other thing that I found with storytellers is that they tend to hug their stories. But you don't have to hug your stories. I have been with a filmmaker. I saw his film. He called me, gave me the privilege of seeing the film before he released the film. And I told him that, one thing, you have to remove these two scenes, so, especially that you are taking it to American movie markets to sell. Remove these two scenes. It's enough for you to just use music to show that she got some inspiration from God and all that, and then she was able to conceive and then get a child. But in one single scene, there was a gospel music. In one single scene, she was holding a chaplet. In one single scene, there was a preacher on TV at the same time. And that scene lasted for like 10 minutes. And I now said, have you ever seen where you would just sit down and there will be a clash of religion? It's not as if there was a clash of religion, but it's just that we have so much going on. Tope Alabi was playing behind. Then she had a rosary, and then there was a Pentecostal preacher who was on TV. And we're hearing everything at the same time. But guess what? He took it to American film market.
Did you remove it?
No, he didn't, because he hugged the story. Like you have written, he's the best. There is nothing I can do about it. So you don't want anybody to criticize. You don't want anybody to tell you. I mean, you guys, you heard our last speaker say that once he creates something, he gives room, for some correction and the rest. Some of these guys hug their stories. Like you hug your idea as if you don't want anybody to know about it. So I told him. So he said, if you remove this thing, there's one shot that he shot. That shot is perfect. I said, hold on. So he went and he came back and he said, Shaibu. That's how he calls me. Shaibu. That thing you told me was correct though. Do you know that one Israeli guy that I thought was going to put some money for the film now stood up and they said, what's his comment about the film? And the guy just told him one line, this should be put in a Christian film festival. That's how the guy walked away. Wow. And this is a very strong, and the Israeli guy was the last hope. He was going to acquire the film because he had been in the American film market for 4 days. And then he pitched and got this Israeli guy. The guy liked everything. But when it got to that part, 10 minutes, and you were doing all that just for the lady to now, after the 10 minutes, the lady now said, oh, something just happened, and the lady just said she has to go and do a test or something. I said, no, films are not this easy. If they are this easy, you will have had like 1 million films being released in Hollywood every time. You know, you will have had. And that's why in this industry, they release films like Pure Water. Every time, because, you know, they just push content and they don't allow you to criticize their content. So they hug their stories. So as storytellers, I will advise that you don't hug your stories. You don't hug. And then as storyteller, one thing that has helped is most of us don't ask questions. We talk more than we even ask questions. Ogunde, we stand up and walk into the village. Ogunde will sit down and go to maybe someone, and then they will start a discussion. He will not say more than, if you put them in words, he will not say more than 200 words. Then you will have listened to that person talk for more than an hour. He will just be maybe encouraging the person to make sure that the person knows that he is listening. So if you want to be a good storyteller, you must learn how to listen more and talk less. Because sometimes when you talk to the person withdraws. The person will not give you those ideas that you have. A lot of them don't ask questions. A lot of them just believe that, they just know it all. You cannot know everything all. You cannot. There is nothing that says, okay, you know that somebody is a specialist in this area. You can go and meet him and talk to him and get some facts from him. Another point I want to make, and our last speaker said it, and some of our panelists mentioned, is that as a storyteller, you must be ready to embrace failure. We have heard so many stories of people, even this Harry Potter that they gave the example today. You know how many times he tried to get that story out, and he couldn't get the story out. But some of us, when we pitch a story and they tell us, oh no, when we pitch a story and they tell us, oh no, the story is bad, we believe that that's the end. And then we either get discouraged, we go out, and nothing happens. So we must do that one very well. So some very quickly, some very useful tips that we need. You must write often. If you don't write often as a storyteller, how will you improve? I know some of our panelists who sat here today, some of our advert people, they do a lot of writing, a lot of copies every now and then. You must write often. It's very important. Then you must be a voracious reader. As in, if you see even the Quran and you can read it and you're a Christian, you read. Because one day you may have a story that needs that. Even if you see a book on philosophy, if you see a book on, if you are not an artist and you see a book on arts, read. That's why I use voracious, like read anything that is readable. So far, it's not the one that says if you read 7 times, you now become a madman. But read everything that is readable so that you can be able to improve your art. You know the problem that we have with some storytellers in Hollywood. The problem is that they are not exposed. They are not. They are writing a story about the medical profession. And they have not even taken time to go on the web, on the blog or the website to check some of those things. So more information. So they just come and somebody says he has one problem and then they are recommending things that don't work. I have had some of my friends who are medical doctors who just frown every time. Say, Shai, will take this your people now. We know they do like this. And what is he talking about? You wheel somebody into the ward, and then the family members are at the door. They are moving up and down, and then the doctor just comes out of the theater. He stands. We lost him. No doctor that is well trained to do that. No. Even if he has to do that, he will walk to his office. He won't stay on that lobby, corridor, and then talk to you about it. No way. So they need to read. They need to read voraciously, read everything. If you are working on a story and you know that this story demands some skills, you know, some areas, you need to read those areas that are very important for you to know. I mean, you see them, they are writing a story about the courts and the rest of them, and they are using terms that are not correct. What stops you from going to ask a lawyer? What stops you from going to ask people about certain things like that? And then again, be a conversationalist. It's very important that you be a conversationalist. When you discuss all the time, it helps you a great deal. And then the other point that I wanted to say, and this one, we have to do it with care. You must have friends that you can use as your storyboards. The storyboard here is in quotes. The storyboard is, you have an idea, and then you trust these people. They may not be writers like you. They may just be normal people. And then you meet with them and you sit down and say, look, I have this story. And then you bounce it. I was PA to Professor Ahmed Yerima for 10 years when he was general manager of the National Theatre and artistic director for National Troupe. Every of his play that he has written, he may not have written the play. He doesn't even have the idea. He may just have had the inspiration. But by the time he gets to the office, he will say, how now? What do you think about the story of a man who does this, does that, does that? I said, this story never sweet. The moment I tell him, hey, you sure? I said, no, the thing no strong like that. He said, okay. Then he brings another one. He says, yeah, I'll discuss this one. They tell us, it was sweet. I say, don't tell me now. You will tell me and not say, this one gets sense. And you get this one grab sense. You say, and in fact, the way we say it is that we can't wear out too. And we don't even understand it too. It's one of our Igbo guy who used to tell us that anytime that something has atu, that means that the thing has weight. So I'll say this one and get atu. And the man has written over 45 plays. Because that's what he does. He can call a babalao to the office and tell a babalao that once somebody does this and this and this and this, how does he come? He can call. There was a time he was writing a play about a Catholic priest, a very famous Catholic priest. He invited people to come, even Christian mothers, those women that have fat hands and they're sorry. He brought them to the office and spoke to them, asked them, you know. So he was conversing with them, talking to them, and as he was talking to them, he was taking notes from them. So you need to really converse if you really want to do well, you know, in this our thankless business that will be good now because we have been assured that with DSO now, this digital switchover, there will be money. So you need to do that. It's very important. And then look for a story in every situation. Look for a story in every situation. Every situation. I mean, now we were discussing in the last 1 week the show at Oba, the Cubana show at Oba. That's a situation. And you are not looking at how they were spraying money and all that. That should inspire a story. Don't follow the crowd to celebrate how they were spraying the money and the rest. But follow yourself to find what can be a story in the life of a Cubana. Already, I have a story already that I've titled Cubana. It may not be the Cubana, but I just know that he has inspired the story that I will give. And my story will open with 320 cows. It will just open, you will just see 320 cows in the yard, all of them, and there will be one in the middle that will have my title. And that's where my camera will go. When I do my present, you see Cubana on the body of the cow. And then we start our story, and we go. I've started talking about the story. I'm not concerned about the pool party or whatever. But you know that the typical person now will follow the crowd. And now do a Cubana where they are spraying money and people are running up and down. So look for a story. Now they have said that a particular hush puppy is vomiting and the rest. There should be a story there. There should be a short, you can even do a short story about you know, the revelations that have come from it, even though I know that you may not be direct so that you don't go into issue of contempt of court, because even now there's a case of contempt. I really don't know what this guy is looking for. A case that is in court. You went to make a movie out of it because you were hungry to tell a story. You went to make a movie, and the case is still in court. But you decided how the case will end. That guy will be in jail. I'm telling you, he will tell stories for the rest of his life inside the jail. You don't do that. And that's because they are not exposed. That's why, because they are not exposed. Because if they ask questions, a lawyer will tell you that this is contempt. Why do you want to do a film about a case that is in court, that is ongoing in court? You don't have to do that. So you need to ask a lot of questions. And then most finally, what has helped really is you must get mentorship. Mentorship is very, very important. There is no person that has arrived. That's why, Maslow told us that once you have your physiological need, you move to self-esteem, then you go to self-actualization. But nobody ever gets to self-actualization. That's why Burna Boy sang that Dangote still look for money.
Yes, sir.
Because this is a Dangote that one day told us that he wanted to show how rich he was. He now pulled out 40 million. Not 40 million naira, $40 million. He pulled it out from the bank, took it home and put it on his bed, and sat down and said, let me get this money. And then the following day, he took it back. Yesterday, I saw Dangote on TV in Gambia, with his hand behind, walking, inspecting his large farm of cement. He wants to go into cement production there too, and the rest. So nobody ever gets. So if somebody like that is still working, who are you? What stories have you written that you will say you have gotten to a level of self-fulfillment? You never can get to a level of self-fulfillment. You must try as much as possible to get mentorship. One of the problems that creatives have in the industry is that you really cannot point, some of them, you really cannot point who trained them. When Kelechi got to me and said, he knew me, right from when we were doing some drama stuff. I used to dance. When I was doing choreography for them, he knew me. But what he told me was that when you call somebody your father, Ogunde trained you and the rest, that's what is missing. You can't point to somebody and say, this person trained me. In those days, when tailors, all those people who were tailors, they would tell you, this person trained me. Mechanic, this person trained me. Why is working for them in the East? Is the apprenticeship system. So you need somebody. So you need mentorship. You need mentorship. You have people who are writing. If you know somebody who writes very well, you know somebody who is better than you in some way, there's nothing wrong in sending him an email to say, hey, please, can you just mentor me? I want you to mentor me in something. And then the person will be, if the person says no, study him. And I doubt whether anybody now will say no. But if he says no, study him, study what he does, read his books, read the things that he reads. There was a day I stood up and I sent a message to Tony Elumelu, and I said, I want you to read the last book you read on management. The guy was like, some other people will ask me for money. I said, no sir, I don't want money. He just told me, he just told me that I should ask him for what I want to ask him. They say I've been looking for him. I said, yes, I want to read the last book you read on management. He said, really? I said, yes. That's what you've been looking for me for. I said, yes sir. And he just opened his briefcase, and then he gave me the book. And he says, once I finish reading this, I should ask him for another one. And then he'll give me. And that's how we have been in touch. And I've never asked him for money. Because if you do, that's the end. You won't have access to it. Then now I send you messages and you say. So you need mentors. And for me, what he's doing in Africa, especially with raising leaders in Africa, has inspired me a lot. So we need mentors in everything we do. And then finally, please do not look for inspiration any other place. When we came into the art, they told me particularly that for me to do very well as an artist, I have to drink, I have to smoke, that sometimes, I'm not against anybody getting inspiration from anything, but don't look for inspiration anywhere else than from your own self, than from your own creator. The moment you are looking for those inspirations somewhere, the moment you think that all you need to do is to get into a wrong way, to start drinking, and you see, the guys in Hollywood has caused a lot of problem for us. If you watch a Nigerian film, if a girl gets jilted now, when she gets into the room, she'll smoke. If she doesn't smoke, she'll get a big bottle of and drink and save off. There. Now it's becoming a fad everywhere. When people get broken hearted, they go and smoke and they go and drink. We don't need all that to get inspired. Some people have things that inspire them, but you don't have to go the dangerous way to get inspired. But I do know that if you, I dance professionally, even rose to become the president of the dance movement in Nigeria. I don't think that I tasted anything to inspire me or to make me strong and the rest of them. No, I don't think I did that. I think that each time I had a block, all I just did was to acknowledge that, somebody gave me this brain and somebody gave me this wisdom. Without being religious, I acknowledge God. And then do some kind of praise and whatever, and the writer block will just go. So I encourage us young writers to keep at it. Keep at it. You will only get better if you continue to do it. But if you just do it and stop, and there is a market for writing, there is a market, especially now that we are doing digital from October, you will begin to see content. Some of these guys who do these short films, they are looking for scripts to produce. Some of those guys who do short contents they are looking for scripts to produce. And the other thing you do, you must market yourself. You must market yourself. I found out that some writers just allow the actors and the actresses to engage on social media. You too, you can come on social media. You can. If you write a very good script, you can even look for friends around who can act some part of it and just drop it on the internet. You don't know who is watching. You see these guys who do music, you see why they get easily picked up. Because somebody can do a sound and send to the video. And just tell the video, I've done this sound, will you like it? And the video will pick it up and go. You see these guys, if they record music, you see them at bars and the rest, and they'll say, bro, I just do one musical. Help me. Sample. They like that, and it goes. So if you write and keep, and you don't expose, how would they see it? You know? So you need to do, and there was a lady who was telling me, let them buy it now, I should sell it. I said, now it's even difficult for you to go and tell somebody to buy a story. And I don't do it because I've done it. There was a popular story that a guy wrote, and the people who will see and say, this guy has potential, he can do more, and that's how. I teach at the University of Lagos, and I encourage my students to do those things. And some of them now are working. Some of them who came to do presentation are today script writers and writing, because I encourage them to do little skits and just post on their social media platform. It's not all about twerking and the rest. I'm not saying that twerking doesn't sell. It sells because your DM will be suffering. And the rest is good. You know? But there are some that will bring you fame. There are some that will bring you fame. There are some that will bring you recognition. I don't see how twerking will bring you fame. I don't see how it will bring you recognition and all that. But if you do, stay on this creative lane. Fame will come, recognition will come, both way will come. Thank you very much.
I believe we can do better than that. If I blow tomorrow now, don't be surprised. The level of information I've received. I feel anointed already. Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Hussein. We are blessed. I mean, Christian, so you'll be hearing blessed. Anointed.
Even Dr. Ugalisi is on the mountain. He was planning for every time I was on the mountain.
See, if I didn't take anything home from what he said today, two things. Ask question. I always stress it. My wife knows. Ask question. Ask question. That is why we are finding ourselves at this level today. Because you don't ask question. You just take everything hook, line, and sinker. Even God says, come, let us reason together. Abba. Sir, God bless you. God, if I talk to my curse you, don't let me curse you. But I want to ask you a question. Like you said, you should ask questions. Sir, are you accessible? Maybe like, you can get your email like you said. We can ask you the last book you read. Okay, you'll give to Pastor K. Yes, we'll go through. Alright, so guys, you heard that. He's accessible, so you can approach Pastor Kenichi. You go through the prophets, the feet of the apostle, so you can, all right. I believe we are being blessed today. I believe we are learning one or two things this afternoon. Yeah. Okay, we are about trying to just land the plane gradually, and are we ready? Is the video intro ready?
Yes.
Okay. Can you remove this first? Let us play the video intro for our next speaker. Ask question. You will not ask question. Next speaker, not the previous one.
Kolawole Shawana is the MD and CEO of Oluti Engineering, an environmental and civil engineering firm with offices in Lagos and Warri in Delta State, specializing in environmental and waste management consulting and solutions for oil and gas sector, road and building construction, solar lighting for the Niger Delta Development Commission, and also heavy equipment leasing for both land and marine operations. He is also the CEO of Ethereal Productions, a custom-built creative hub facility that houses state-of-the-art equipment and professionals to develop top-notch musical, audio, video, and photography productions for content creators. Prior to managing his company, he was the senior procurement manager at PZ Cussons PLC and Guinness Nigeria PLC, responsible for the global sourcing of raw materials for both companies for the production of home and personal care products and beverages. He is a certified international procurement professional with over 12 years experience in end-to-end supply chain, procurement, operations, logistics, and management. With an interest in maximizing investment opportunities, Kola manages a private investment club of individuals with a shared passion for creating wealth. His area of specialty, amongst others, includes forex trading. A passionate lover of God, a kingdom financier and enabler for people to come together with a cause to worship and serve God. Join me in welcoming Kolawole Shawana.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome PK as we always call him.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here.
I was supposed to take this business of storytelling, but I know that time is already fast spent. So I'm just going to talk about the ethereal story. I think my introduction is already very very filled. So, all right. So when PK sent me this topic, I started to think a gathering of storytellers. What am I going to tell them? You know, what am I going to tell the gathering of storytellers? You know, and it took me back when I was much younger. I never really used to like art. No, I was poor in drawing. I was poor in anything that had to do with art. But there was something I later found passion for, which was music. You know, taught myself how to play the drums, taught myself how to play the keyboard. So until I started engaging church and all of that. But like my Bible said, if there's anything that piques my interest in conversation with people is how do you make money? You know, it's something that I've seen driving me and sort of funneling my current career path and my own personal development plans. So if I have a conversation with anybody, I'm always thinking, how can we turn this into wealth? How can we make money from this? How can we, that has been my recent driving force. So I'm into so many businesses as well right now with personal, things that I do that is outside of the office. But when I think about storytellers, the question that comes to mind, or rather the thinking that comes to mind, everything is about a story, Everything is about a story. I remember Tales by Moonlight that we used to listen to many years ago when we were younger, and then we grew into different things. And can I get one of the guys too? Thank you. All right. One of the things that intrigued me about the recent happenings along the business of stories was things that have changed. If we notice, Ali Baba is not the first comedian. No. Long ago we've listened to or watched people like on TV. And then you ask yourself, these guys were famous, but why didn't they blow? And we've seen comedians, we've seen artists, we've seen all these people that they used to be famous, we see them a lot on TV. And when we ask ourselves, how did their lives end up the way most of them did? And it happened in so many arts, it's happened in sports, it's happened in so many areas. And one thing that is common, along the art world is that every form of art is storified. Every form of art is storified. So whether it's in visual art, it's in and one thing about art is fluid. So it's the way you choose it to be, it will be. I saw a guy who did I think this was in Italy. He brought I don't know what, a canvas, he threw canvas on the floor, and then he carried different types of paint, and then he just splattered it and splattered it and splattered it. And then carried the canvas and hung it, and someone came and paid money for it. I was shocked at and then people were like, wow, this is so good. And he just bought paint, and that was what I saw as a layman, but the visual artist saw something completely different. So it piqued my interest, and I started saying, every form of art that we choose to do has to communicate something. I know we've said a lot of things in the last 2 days, yesterday and today, but I'm not going to take different nuggets of many things that people have said. Your art has to communicate something. Even in the business world, people don't buy things just for convenience. People buy things because of how it will make their lives better. Google did a study recently, I think in 2018. They were trying to find out how they could make Google more appealing. And studies that they rounded up show that people only purchase things because of the way it makes them feel, not because of what you have put out, and it speaks to what people do, adverts these days. Look at Airtel, loads of stories, right? Look at Glow, loads of stories. And because they want a reaction that is emotive for the user. So if you are having any form of art, be concerned about how your art will make your target audience feel. You know? And it is that feeling that causes people to want to engage with what you do. Stories bring people together. Story, and when people gather, money gathers. That's what I say, right? When people gather, money gathers. So your story, in whichever form, whether digital or oral or whatever form or visual art that it is, has to be emotive in a way. How does it make people feel? How does it get people engaged? And when your story can evoke that emotion with people, then they are ready to part with their hard-earned cash for it. So if you're listening to this, start to ask yourself, how do I move from where I am now as a storyteller to turning stories into wealth? And there's several things that we can do, that as a business person. And this is one thing that I feel a lot of people are afraid for. Be professional. Be professional. And when I say professionalism, I don't mean wear suit and tie. It's not just that. Let your work be well done. Let your work be well done. I remember when we set out to build this place, we didn't start out, the original intention was not a music studio. The original intention was a music studio, right? We just wanted to put the instruments here, people will come here, sing, dance, praise God, do live worship sessions. But this is not the live worship. This is not the live worship. This is, and then when we started out, we started to tell ourselves, okay, every piece of furniture, every lighting, the way it is designed has to be done with intentionality, because there was something much more that we began to see as the work started, and then we put in money and we just made the place, and it turned out to be a creative hub and not just a music studio. So right now, you could do music, you could do lectures, you could take photography upstairs. The conference room, interestingly, is also out for rent or daily pay. People have been booking it, and things like that, and it's because of the intentionality. Anybody who walks in here rather, your mind is blown at the first thing you see, and that is exactly the feeling that we want to get. So your professionalism must push you to the point where it gets to evoke people's emotions. It has to evoke people's emotions. And that is when they can begin to consider, maybe they won't part with money, but then they begin to consider parting with their hard funds for what it is that you're doing. So be professional. Another thing I would like to wrap up with, secondly, is a lot of people are afraid to start a company. Professionalism also requires that go and register that business. Let it be a sole proprietorship. It's okay, right? Register the business. Understand what it means to handle finances, how to do your taxes. Open a bank account. These are the things that makes your delivery more professional. I saw a quote recently. The quote said, he said this. He said, a reputational damage happens when a bad story is told, whether it is your fault or not. Reputational damage happens when a bad story is told, whether that story was told badly because of your fault or not. So if you get into a space, for example, as a compare, you want to get in there early. You want to ask your host, is there a microphone? Is there a stage? Where will I stand? Where do I sit? Because all these things are important to your delivery. If you get into a place where the things are not properly done, and then you just go and just beg you, please, just do it for, it's okay, if you want to support, right? But there are certain levels you will get to where, things have to be in place because of your own reputation. And that's what professionalism speaks about. You register your company, you have a bank account. When someone asks you, send me your account number. You know, it was okay, you want to send your name, but it's not enough. Send a business name and an account that is already in place, right? That speaks to the preparedness you have given into making money with your art, right? And that is what, you know, a lot of people are looking at. A lot has been said about target audience, so I will not dwell on that. I'll just give an example. They just finished The Voice, right? There was a young guy in The Voice, KP. He didn't have the best of voice in The Voice, but he was in top 3. Why? Because he stuck to his core and he knew his target audience, Gen Z. I will give them dance, I will give them attitude, and that's what kept him there. So again, that is the thing about target audience. Know who you are called to. Don't just deviate and jump here and there. There was a brilliant singer as well who tried to, he left early because he tried to appeal to so many people at the same time. I can't remember his name, but I was very impressed with what KP did. And the last thing I will speak on this morning, this afternoon rather, I was supposed to come in the morning, is collaborations. Collaborations. This is the era where people should start thinking about, I can't do it alone. I need to with someone. And I'll give us a classic example. There's a guy called Twice Ereme. Who knows Twice? You know Twice, right? So Twice is the guy that started these skits that shows him in different, multiple, yeah. You know, he started to do that. He got very good at it. He became well known, but it wasn't enough. Taoma started hers, right? And Taoma also grew. But one thing you realize is that because that place where it has become peak for them and it's not enough, what you see now is collaboration. You see Mr. Macaroni and Taoma coming together to deliver something excellent. You see this lawyer guy doing the same things with this angry guy. Yeah, you know, MC Lively with the other angry Lassisi. They come together and then they do something. Collaborations is what will get us beyond the point where we are stuck. And the good book also says, sorry, I'm a pastor, so I'm the good book says, one will chase 1,000, two will chase 10,000. It has been like that from time immemorial, and it will work in seasons like now. So if you want to turn your stories into money, what you start to think about, be professional in your outlook, in your delivery, in your preparation. Register a business is important. It doesn't cost so much to register a sole proprietorship. It doesn't cost so much, right? And then also try to think about collaborations. Ethereum Productions, as we are right now, my personal forte is not in all these things that I'm doing, right? But I have people who have collaborated with to deliver this excellence, to deliver. Edward Sunday was the one who helped us, you know, in the construction of this from top to bottom, right? And we collaborated with him. My creative designer, Philip Page, I'm sure director, we all know him, Philip Page, and a host of other people. Photography, I don't know how to take a shot, you know, but I have a photography studio because I collaborated with people that can help me to deliver on this mandate called the creative one. So with these 2 points of mine, I hope I believe in. All right, thank you very much.
All right, that was precise and on point. So we'll come and collaborate with you.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Yeah, no problem, sir. We are coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm refreshed right here, so get ready to collaborate because you might just see me in your DM like, okay, dude, so can we just make this money together and make it easier for us? Because that's struggling. All right, I hope we have learned 1 or 2 things this afternoon. Day 2. Wow. I'm glad I didn't miss day 2. Day 1 was awesome. Today's awesome. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't be in a hurry. We have a light refreshment for all of us. Like Davidson said, it's not so light. It's grilled chicken grilled chicken. But we're not going to serve you sweet drink. We want you to be healthy also, so we're going to serve you water. Yeah, water. Water is life. You stay alive, you know, we still want you to...
We want to collaborate
with you, so we want to go too soon, please. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming today. Please, like I said, we are taking pictures. We're still going to take pictures after now, outside, inside, anywhere. You can go to the art gallery, upstairs, the reception, the studio. Take pictures, please. Take pictures with people. Tag them, and also hashtag Story Conference 2021. We love that so much. Spread the news. And very soon, before the end of the year, I believe we are going to have another one. But that one might be online though. Might be online conference. So please stay glued to your phone. And I believe we have everybody's email address. So we'll send you a mail for a reminder. I'm going to join Pastor K because, like I said, come on, collaborate.
Eros, you can come and collaborate. Very good picture. We are already doing it. Come, join us, please.
That's it, though.
Next time, so I can never.
Yes. Everyone.
Oh, okay.
Sipping up and sipping late. Yeah, please.
Those of us are very good. Come on, come to the front.
All my sins, I've been tripping, my God.
I want to see what's up.
Brand new life, I've been looking
So please, while they're serving our light refreshments, don't be in a hurry. Let's go outside and take pictures. Let's take pictures. Let's meet someone, introduce yourself to someone. You might not know what you're looking for is in the hand of that person sitting next to you or sitting behind you or in front of you. So please, meet people. Ask questions, like I said, what do you do? Get to know people, please. Don't dull yourself. God is not mad at you for doing that. God is not mad at you for collaborating or for telling people what you do. You might not know, you never know, you know what I'm saying? Alright, thank you everybody. See you at the next edition. Shalom, peace, sayonara, hasta la vista. Okay, I remain your boy, Spirit Man, Spirit Go-Go, Adeyemi, Adesina, Folabi, Adekemi, Akonya, Adekemi, Sheparo, Etoba Fomomo, Alutiepa. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Thank you so much. Peace. Love you. Sayonara, hasta la vista. No dabo. Kachifo. Good night.
They have to.
I did say that. It's on like this one.